"I'm sorry, Miss Gardner, but this pink diamond of yours is a fake. We can't purchase it." "Fake?" Scarlett Gardner froze, then quickly said, "Impossible, this is the wedding ring my husband bought for me at an auction in England." "How could it be fake?" The appraiser offered a polite smile. "I know. I still vividly remember your and Mr. Lancaster's wedding of the century, which was the talk of the city 3 years ago. I was even fortunate enough to see the real, pink heart diamond. But the one you have on your hand," he said gently, "is just an ordinary crystal." Scarlett stumbled out of the shop. Her phone screen lit up with a call from Alex Adams. She answered hurriedly, "Hello, Alex. Is something wrong with my father?" Alex's voice was fraught with anxiety. "Miss Gardner, I just got a call from the tax office. If we can't come up with the $15 million in back taxes within 3 days, they're going to arrest Mr. Gardner." Scarlett's hand trembled as she hung up. She closed her eyes, forcing herself to calm down. Nothing could happen to her father. As expected, Ethan Lancaster's phone went straight to voicemail. Scarlett took a deep breath and dialed another number. "Jasmine Rivers. I need to see Ethan." The woman on the other end let out a flirtatious laugh. "Well, if it isn't Mrs. Lancaster, looking for your husband and calling me. Are you keeping too close a watch on him?" A burst of mocking laughter erupted in the background. Scarlett's voice turned to ice. "Let me talk to Ethan." Jasmine chuckled lightly. "Ethan can't be bothered with you. If you need something, just come to Noir yourself." Her voice was as cloying as a venomous snake. "Remember to dress up, dear. Don't embarrass yourself like you did last time." Scarlett had been to Noir once before. It was 3 years ago, right after she and Ethan had gotten married. Back then, Jasmine had been friendly, offering to introduce her to Ethan's friends. She had even insisted Scarlett change into a sexy mini dress, claiming it was the standard attire for nightclubs. The result was that a drunken patron mistook her for an escort and dragged her into a private room. Jasmine had just stood by and watched, a malicious smile playing on her lips. It was one of Ethan's friends, who eventually came to her rescue. When Ethan finally showed up, he didn't ask her a single question. He was too busy drinking and joking with Jasmine. The man who had thrown her a wedding of the century just days before had left her in a forgotten corner, to be pointed at and ridiculed. She had been consumed with shame, feeling she had disgraced him, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. She had forgotten that none of it was her fault. It was her husband who had failed to protect her. 3 years later, Scarlett stood at the entrance of Noir once again, dressed in casual clothes, looking just as out of place. Ignoring the stares, she walked in and went straight to Ethan's private suite. The room was thick with a haze of smoke and alcohol, filled with men and women drinking together. But Ethan wasn't there. Jasmine spotted Scarlett immediately, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Scarlett, you actually have the nerve to show up." Scarlett cut to the chase. "I don't have time for your games. Where is Ethan?" Jasmine took a leisurely sip of her wine. "And what do you need Ethan for? That's none of your business." Jasmine scoffed. "I know even if you don't tell me. You're here for money again, aren't you?" "Scarlett, you've only been married to Ethan for 3 years. Do you have any idea how much he's sunk into your family's business? You and your father are like a pair of leeches, clinging to a lifeline and sucking it dry." Whispers of contempt spread through the room. Scarlett pressed her lips together, silent. Everyone said they were social climbers. No one believed it was Ethan's mother, Eleanor Lancaster, who had initiated the marriage. 3 years ago, rumors had swirled that the Lancaster Group was facing a government crackdown, and their business partners had scrambled to cut ties. Even the Rivers family, longtime friends, had hastily sent their daughter abroad to sever the connection between Jasmine and Ethan. It was then that Eleanor, against Ethan's wishes, brought up an old friendship between the Lancaster and Gardner patriarchs and proposed the union. Scarlett's father, Arthur Gardner, had initially disagreed, but relented when Scarlett insisted. By the time the wedding preparations were complete, the unfavorable rumors about the Lancaster Group had dissolved with new policy changes. All the fair-weather friends who had vanished came flocking back as if they had amnesia. It was laughable that these same people, who had abandoned the Lancasters at their lowest, now had the audacity to mock the Gardner family as social climbers for marrying into the family during their crisis. But Scarlett couldn't bring herself to argue, because 3 months after the wedding, the Gardner family business ran into trouble. Without asking a single question, Ethan had generously propped them up, pouring in tens of millions of dollars until they were back on their feet. So Scarlett truly had no ground to claim she hadn't used the Lancasters' money, even though she hadn't married him for it. But that didn't give others the right to judge. Scarlett looked up, her gaze cool as she met Jasmine's. "It's funny, Miss Rivers, how concerned you are with someone else's finances. I am Ethan Lancaster's wife. Half of his assets are legally mine. It doesn't matter how much I spend, it's my own money. What does it have to do with you? Or perhaps you're a little short on cash yourself, Miss Rivers. Thinking of borrowing some? Let me be clear. No matter how close you are to Ethan, you can't bypass our legal marriage. If you want to use his money, you'll need my permission. Otherwise, I have every right to reclaim it as marital property." Jasmine's face darkened, and she pointed a finger at Scarlett, her voice rising to a shriek. "You shameless wretch, how dare you? Ethan and I were about to get married. It was you who stole him from me. You're nothing but a despicable homewrecker. What right do you have to act so high and mighty in front of me?" Scarlett sneered, too tired to argue about the past. Ethan wasn't here, so there was no reason for her to stay. She only had 3 days. She had to raise the money. As Scarlett turned to leave, Jasmine lunged forward and grabbed a handful of her hair. "Feeling guilty? I'm going to teach you a lesson today. You scum, I'll make you see what you really are." A sharp pain shot through Scarlett's scalp, and a fire ignited within her. She grabbed Jasmine's hand to wrench it away, but her fingers brushed against something hard. She turned her head. The pink heart was on Jasmine's ring finger. Her mind exploded. Before she knew what she was doing, she had seized Jasmine's hand and was bending her finger back hard. Amidst Jasmine's screams, Scarlett asked coldly, "Why do you have my ring?" Jasmine, sweating from the pain, gritted her teeth. "Ethan gave it to me. Of course, did you really think you were Mrs. Lancaster? He's wanted to kick you out for ages. I'm the one he wants to marry. He ordered this pink heart for me 3 years ago." "Let go of me, you wretch, you're hurting me." Scarlett froze for a moment, her heart feeling like a bitter lemon being squeezed mercilessly by a giant hand. Tears almost escaped her eyes. She took a deep breath, forcing them back. Ethan could marry whomever he wanted. That was his freedom. But he had no right to give her things away to someone else. Scarlett's expression hardened as she viciously pulled the ring off Jasmine's finger. Jasmine cried out as the ring scraped her skin, leaving behind bloody scratches. The ring had a unique clasp, making it difficult to remove without opening it first. A small design meant to symbolize eternal love was now stained with blood. A love that was out of place could only leave everyone scarred, just like her love for Ethan. Expressionless, Scarlett pocketed the ring. Good. What she needed right now wasn't love, but money. She turned and strode away. Just as she reached the door, it was flung open. Ethan Lancaster's face appeared before her. His cool, indifferent eyes flickered over her before moving to the scene behind her. His aloof brows furrowed. His gaze returned to her, cold and sharp. "Who hurt Jasmine?" Scarlett looked at the face she had loved for 7 years, her lips trembling slightly as she answered calmly. "I did. She deserved it." "Ethan," Jasmine threw herself into Ethan's arms, her voice choked with sobs, yet defiant. "Yes, I deserved it. I shouldn't have fallen in love with you. I shouldn't still love you now that you're married, but I can't help it. I can't control myself. You love me too, don't you? We should have been married 3 years ago. I just can't bear to let go. We're the ones who are supposed to be together. Ethan, your wife called me a homewrecker. I know a lot of people out there think I am, but I don't care as long as I can be with you. I don't care about anything." Others in the room chimed in with support. Jasmine and Ethan grew up together. We've all seen their 20-plus years of history. Scarlett openly stole him from Jasmine back then, and now she's hitting people. She's gone too far. Ethan, aren't you going to do something about her? Ethan took Jasmine's bleeding hand, his touch full of meaning as he gently caressed her fingers. "Jasmine, of course you're not a homewrecker, and I would never treat you like that." Scarlett lowered her eyes. Jasmine really is different, she thought. Even after she had betrayed his trust and fled overseas, he still gave her the pink heart the moment she returned. Soon enough, Jasmine would shed the title of homewrecker and don the crown of Mrs. Lancaster. Scarlett sighed softly, too tired to watch anymore, and turned to leave. Ethan's cold voice stopped her. "Where are you going?" "To save your father. Do you have the money?" Without turning back, Scarlett said, "I will once I sell the ring." Ethan paused, then let out what sounded like a humorless laugh. "Sell the ring. Scarlett, with a single word from me, do you think anyone in Southport would dare to buy that diamond from you? Scarlett's steps faltered. She slowly turned around. Why? I haven't done anything to offend you. This was their unspoken rule over the past few years. If Scarlett did something to displease him, he would punish her. If he upset Scarlett, he had more than enough money to shower her with gifts until she was happy again. Ethan said casually, "The whole city knows the pink heart is the wedding ring of the Lancaster family's young madam. Are you trying to let everyone know the Lancasters are so broke they have to sell their jewelry?" As for offending me, he smiled faintly, taking Jasmine's hand. You bullied Jasmine. How is that not offending me? After a long pause, she asked, "What do you want?" Ethan led Jasmine to a seat at the bar, his tone lazy. "If you need money, I can give it to you. But first, Scarlett, bow your precious head and apologize to Jasmine." Scarlett's fists slowly tightened, indignation swelling in her chest. Although Ethan didn't like her, he had always maintained a certain level of respect for her in public. This was the first time he had ever shamed and humiliated her in front of others for another woman. She could barely stop herself from exploding or running away. But right now, she didn't have the luxury of being willful. 3 days, $15 million. He was her only hope. Ethan took a sip of wine from the glass Jasmine held for him, but his eyes never left Scarlett. She turned stiffly, walked step by step to Jasmine, and, with her eyes downcast, said expressionlessly, "I'm sorry." Her voice was calm, but Ethan could somehow hear the infinite grievance and anger simmering beneath. He disliked the dismissive way she looked at him and had intended to break her spirit. But now that she had submitted, he felt a suffocating tightness in his own chest. Seeing Ethan stand up for her, Jasmine was ecstatic. "Weren't you so arrogant just now? How come you wilted the second Ethan arrived? Tell me, Scarlett, which one of us is the shameless homewrecker?" Derisive snickers echoed around them. Scarlett's lips trembled slightly. With great difficulty, she said, "I'm the shameless one. I'm the homewrecker." Jasmine burst into peals of laughter. Ethan remained silent. Scarlett took a step closer and looked up at him. "Is this enough? Are you satisfied now?" Her somber face made him shift his gaze away in a flicker of panic. He took out his phone, about to instruct his assistant to transfer the funds, when Scarlett's phone rang. She froze for a few seconds before quickly answering. "Alex? Miss Gardner, Mr. Gardner was just taken away by the police. He's been formally detained pending arraignment. I'm so sorry, I couldn't do anything to help." "How could that be? I thought we had 3 days. New evidence has surfaced. It's very damaging for Mr. Gardner." Scarlett's hand went slack and the phone clattered to the floor. She stared ahead, lost and bewildered. It was as if she was looking at someone, yet seeing nothing at all. Watching her devastated state, Ethan's lips tightened. He wanted to say something, but Jasmine beat him to it. "Your father was arrested. Serves him right, you blood-sucking father-daughter duo. Not only do you suck Ethan's blood, but you dare to suck the country dry too, to be so greedy for money. You people are disgusting." A glint appeared in Scarlett's eyes. She suddenly asked, "How did you know?" Jasmine gloated. "Ethan and I have known for a while. We were just toying with you. You're the only fool who's been kept in the dark by your own father." Ethan couldn't stop her in time. He watched as Scarlett lifted her head, her eyes red-rimmed, and looked at him. Her voice sounded like shattering porcelain. "Why? You knew all along, so why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you save my father? Why did you just stand by and watch?" That single word struck Ethan's heart like a drumbeat. He knew it was a lost cause from the start. He had only used it as a pretext to force her to bow her head to him, resentful that she never seemed to care about him. Looking at the broken Scarlett, his hands at his sides clenched into fists, and a wave of dense regret washed over him. But he still forced himself to maintain a cold expression. "Because your father brought it on himself." Scarlett's eyes burned. She wanted to scream that it wasn't true, that her father would never do anything illegal, that they weren't that greedy. But it felt as if a giant rock was lodged in her throat, and she couldn't utter a sound. She looked into Ethan's indifferent eyes and finally, belatedly, realized it. Ethan, he truly despised her. And maybe, she thought, she didn't love him so much anymore either. With Arthur Gardner in a detention center awaiting trial, Scarlett rushed around, trying to hire a good lawyer for him. She put her art exhibition, which had been 6 months in the making, on hold. But after days of searching, not a single law firm was willing to take her father's case. With the trial just 2 weeks away, she was frantic but helpless. Exhausted, she returned home to shower and sleep. In the middle of the night, she was woken by a tingling sense of pressure. A familiar woody scent, mixed with a hint of alcohol, filled her nostrils. Had Ethan come home? He hadn't been home in so long that Scarlett was momentarily dazed. It wasn't until she felt an intimate touch that she snapped awake and forcefully pushed the man off her. "Ethan, let go of me," the man seemed prepared. He gripped her wrists tightly, his gaze fixed on her fiery, doe-like eyes in the moonlight, his breathing ragged. He couldn't help but feel a stir of desire. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, "It's been 5 days. Found a lawyer yet?" Scarlett froze, then fury erupted. "It was you told them not to take my father's case, didn't you? Ethan, are you insane? Why would you do this to my father? What have we ever done to you? The finance director is still missing. My father was framed. I can't let him go to jail. What do you want from me to let my father go?" Scarlett's eyes were crimson and shimmering with tears. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Make me happy, and I'll find a lawyer for you. You know how to make me happy? I taught you how during your last punishment." Scarlett was silent for a long moment before saying, "Ethan, Jasmine is back. You can go to her." "Scarlett," the man's voice was lazy but held a clear warning. "You are my wife. This is your duty." Another silence. Scarlett's voice trembled. "Swear to me. Swear you'll find a lawyer for my father." Her eyes were red, making her look both adorable and pitiful. He couldn't resist leaning in to kiss her. "I swear," she finally relented. At the peak of their intimacy, Ethan stared deeply at her face. Just like on their wedding night, it was flushed and dewy, breathtakingly beautiful. But on that night, those moist lips had whispered an unfamiliar name. Rage surged within him, and he tormented her more cruelly. "Scarlett, Scarlett, no matter who's in your heart, you can only stay by my side." The next day, a Mr. Wright, a renowned lawyer specializing in financial cases, contacted Scarlett as promised. Scarlett, her body aching, sat in the living room listening to Mr. Wright's detailed analysis of the case. Ethan, holding a cup of coffee, watched her focused expression, a barely perceptible smile playing on his lips. Behind him, his assistant, Leo Taylor, glanced at Scarlett with pity and couldn't help but remind his boss, "Mr. Lancaster, if Mrs. Lancaster finds out what you've been doing, she'll be furious. Aren't you afraid she'll never see you again?" Ethan's gaze remained fixed on her captivating silhouette. After a long while, he finally said, "It doesn't matter." What he did didn't matter, and whether she was angry didn't matter. She was his wife. He would never give her the chance to leave. Leo glanced at his boss and shook his head secretly. "Has the ring been cleaned?" Ethan's sudden question startled Leo, who quickly replied, "Yes, it's been cleaned and returned to Mrs. Lancaster." "I'm sorry, Mr. Lancaster. I had no idea Miss Rivers would take the ring without permission. Ethan shot him a cool glance. "If you let anyone else stick their hands where they don't belong again, you can report directly to the finance department." Leo smiled bitterly to himself, then asked, "What about the ring you ordered for Miss Rivers? Are you still giving it to her?" "Yes, you're not angry with Miss Rivers anymore?" Ethan took a calm sip of his coffee. Those are two separate matters. He was willing to give women what they wanted, but they couldn't just take it themselves. Whether in business or with women, Ethan Lancaster had to be the one in control. Leo watched his boss's intense gaze fixed on his wife and said no more. He had a growing feeling that his boss was about to crash and burn. Mr. Wright made swift progress, and soon he arranged for Scarlett to visit her father, Arthur, at the detention center. Though it had only been a few days, Arthur had lost a significant amount of weight and looked haggard. Scarlett couldn't help but cry at the sight of him. Arthur gently comforted his daughter, reassuring her that he had done nothing wrong and that the law would prove his innocence. Then his expression turned serious. He urged Scarlett to stop getting involved and let the lawyer handle everything. "Scarlett, you need to leave for a while." "Leave? Dad, where do you want me to go?" "Anywhere. Just get away from Ethan Lancaster." "Dad?" Before Scarlett could ask more, their visiting time was up, and Arthur was led away by a guard. She was puzzled, but she remembered how her father had never liked Ethan. He had been against their marriage from the start and had frequently urged her to get a divorce over the years. She figured this was just another one of his earnest pleas. He felt Ethan was no good for her. Scarlett knew it all too well. But right now, her father's case depended on him. Not only could she not afford to alienate him, but she had to go out of her way to please him. As for the future, she would think about that later. These past few days, Ethan had been acting as if he'd had a personality transplant. He came home on time every day, had dinner with her, went for walks, and watched movies. He was especially clingy at night. Although Scarlett disliked it, she played along for her father's sake. She noticed that Ethan's expression wasn't as cold as before. She could even see faint hints of a smile. They were like a normal couple, and for the most part, their time together was comfortable. Only Leo grew more anxious by the day. The calm before the storm is always deceptively beautiful. 2 weeks passed in a blur, and the day of the trial arrived. Since it was a closed hearing, Scarlett could only wait outside for the verdict. Ethan had been incredibly insistent and clingy that morning, causing her to leave late. The trial had already ended while she was still on the road. While waiting at a red light, a call came in from Mr. Wright. Assuming it was about the trial result, Scarlett quickly connected it to her car's Bluetooth. As the light turned green and she started to drive, Mr. Wright spoke before she could. "Mr. Lancaster, all the newly compiled evidence was submitted during today's hearing. As you requested, we successfully secured a 3-year prison sentence for Mr. Gardner." In an instant, the noise of the bustling traffic fell silent. A thunderbolt struck Scarlett's mind, leaving her dazed and disoriented. She belatedly realized that in her rush to leave that morning, she had grabbed Ethan's phone by mistake. Mr. Wright was reporting to Ethan Lancaster that they had successfully sent Arthur Gardner to prison. "My father is going to prison. Because I trusted Ethan, I personally sent my innocent father to prison. Ethan." Why? Scarlett's mind was in chaos. Before she could process anything, a massive impact slammed into her. A speeding SUV crashed into her car, flipping it over. The intense pain instantly stole her consciousness. Ethan was in acquisition meetings all day. It wasn't until the afternoon that he realized he had Scarlett's phone in his pocket. Remembering that today was the trial, the fact that Scarlett hadn't contacted him once after taking the wrong phone gave him a sinking feeling. He tried calling his own phone twice, but no one answered. Suddenly, his office door opened, and Jasmine Rivers sashayed in. "Ethan, that old codger Arthur Gardner has been sentenced. Let's go out and celebrate." Her slender fingers traced his tie up to his chest, the brilliant blue sapphire on her ring catching the light. Jasmine looked up at him, her eyes glistening. "You gave me such an expensive ring, I should return the favor. Let me take care of the arrangements tonight, okay?" Ethan glanced at the unresponsive phone, suppressing the unease in his heart. "Fine," he said nonchalantly. "You decide." Jasmine giggled and wrapped her arm around his as they left. 10 minutes later, Leo Taylor burst into the office in a panic. "Mr. Lancaster, Mrs. Lancaster." The vast office was empty. He sniffed the air. A strong scent of roses lingered. It was the perfume Jasmine always wore. Beads of sweat formed on Leo's forehead. Ethan's phone was still unanswered. After a moment of hesitation, he dialed Jasmine's number. No one picked up. Frustrated, he could only instruct the secretaries outside to inform Mr. Lancaster about Scarlett's car accident the moment he returned. Then he rushed to the hospital himself. In the hospital room, the fluorescent lights were stark and blinding. Scarlett lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. "My father is going to prison. He's getting older. How will he endure such hardship? What about the family company? Without Dad, I don't know anything. That was his life's work. I can't lose it. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have agreed to marry Ethan 3 years ago. I should have listened to my father. Why was I so stupid? So insistent on marrying a man who didn't love me?" The door opened softly, and a handsome man in a white coat walked in. He had refined features and a gentle smile. He placed a warm hand on her forehead and asked softly, "Scarlett, how are you feeling? Does it hurt?" Scarlett blinked away her tears and forced a smile. "I'm fine. Ken, thank you for this. You had to come back from your vacation just to operate on me." Kevin Chambers smiled. "Scarlett, you don't have to be so formal with me. We're old friends. It's what I should do." "Where's your husband? Why isn't he here?" Scarlett's gaze dimmed. "He's busy." Kevin's brow furrowed in disapproval. "Scarlett, you've been in a serious accident. He's your husband. No matter how busy he is, he should be here taking care of you." Scarlett looked away. "It's fine. Don't worry about him. By the way, when can I be discharged? She had to get to the prison to see her father and figure out a way to stabilize the company. There was too much to do, she couldn't just lie here. Kevin's expression tensed. Sensing his hesitation, Scarlett's heart clenched in panic. What is it? Is it serious? Kevin sighed softly. Scarlett, I need you to listen to me calmly. The injuries to the rest of your body aren't too severe. You can be discharged to recover at home in a few days. It's just, your right hand has multiple fractures. It's quite serious. Scarlett looked at him, her mind slow to process. My right hand, Kevin took her hand, his voice filled with sympathy. Scarlett, you might never be able to paint again. Never paint again? Scarlett stared at Kevin in a daze. She had started painting at 5, won major children's art competitions by 7, made a name for herself in the art world at 14, and held her first exhibition with the support of renowned artists at 16. Her paintbrush was her life's purpose, the outlet for her soul. And now it might have been her only means of survival, but it was all gone. Despair wrapped around her like a fisherman's net. Tears welled in her clear eyes. What am I going to do? Kevin quickly pulled out a tissue to wipe her tears, but they kept falling, an endless stream he couldn't stop. He stood there helplessly for a few seconds, then suddenly opened his arms and pulled her into a hug, gently patting her back. Don't cry, Scarlett, don't be afraid. I'll help you, I'll find a way to heal you, I promise. I'll be here with you, Mrs. Lancaster. Leo was standing at the door, his face pale and drenched in sweat as he stared at the two people embracing in the room. His mind went blank. Only one word remained. Over. Seeing him, Scarlett calmly sat up and slowly wiped away her tears. What are you doing here? Thinking about who his boss was with at that moment, Leo felt a pang of guilt. Mr. Lancaster is tied up with something very important and couldn't get away. He sent me to check on you first. He'll be here as soon as he's finished, Scarlett said coldly. What would he come here for? To send me to prison too? Leo faltered. Actually, it's not what you think. He stammered for a moment, then changed the subject. How are you feeling, Mrs. Lancaster? This is the doctor, right? Don't worry about the cost, use the best medicine. We need to ensure our Mrs. Lancaster makes a full recovery, he added. However, we will hire professionals for comforting and nursing care, so the doctor doesn't need to handle it personally. It would be best to maintain a certain distance from the patient. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. As if he couldn't understand the hidden meaning, Kevin smiled and said, A doctor's duty is to heal. Every patient is my responsibility. I will personally ensure Scarlett gets better. He stressed the word personally. Leo's eyes widened, utterly at a loss for how to deal with this man who clearly had a death wish. The phone on Scarlett's side table suddenly rang. The caller ID showed her own name. It was Ethan. Leo's sharp eyes caught it, and he breathed a sigh of relief as if a savior had arrived, urging Scarlett to answer. Mr. Lancaster must be calling the moment he finished his work. He really cares about you, Mrs. Lancaster. Scarlett's lips curled into a mocking smile as she answered the call. Ethan couldn't possibly care about her. She just wanted to know why he had done this to her and her father. The moment the call connected, before anyone could speak, a soft, intimate moan came from the other end. Ethan, you're so hot? Jasmine's sensual murmur echoed in the hospital room. The sound that should have been blush-inducing sent a chill down the spines of all three people present. Scarlett's face instantly turned pale. The last ounce of strength drained from her body, and her heart felt as if it were being crushed. She had always known he had a string of women, but those other women had never appeared before her, so she could deceive herself and pretend everything was fine. Now, the deepest, most secret hope in her heart had been dragged into the light and torn to shreds. She felt an immense sadness, but also a strange sense of relief. Loving him was such a difficult thing. All those sleepless nights, the endless tears, the twists and turns of grief. Finally, she could let it go. On the other end of the line, Jasmine suddenly gasped heavily, her voice breaking. Ethan, give it to me. Amidst that sticky, breathless sound, Scarlett spoke calmly. Miss Rivers, please be so kind as to inform him that I want a divorce. Ethan arrived at the hospital an hour later. Scarlett's right arm was in a cast, and her head and leg were bandaged. She looked haggard even in her sleep. In just one day, she had been reduced to this state. Ethan's eyes darkened, turning red at the edges. His voice was ice. The driver who hit her? Leo reported in a low voice. A rich kid, his family is in the fashion business. He was drinking. Ethan didn't even raise an eyebrow. 24 hours. I don't want to see that family in Southport ever again. It had been a long time since his boss had resorted to such ruthless, decisive measures. Leo knew he was extremely worried about his wife and extremely angry. He didn't try to dissuade him and left to carry out the order. Without turning on the lights, Ethan walked step by step to the hospital bed and sat down in the darkness. His fingers gently touched her face. Scarlett's eyelashes fluttered and she slowly opened her eyes. Let go of me, she hadn't wanted to cry, but she had lost too much today. Ethan sighed, his tone softening. Don't be difficult. You're injured, does it hurt? I've called in a team of orthopedic specialists from the capital city. Tomorrow they'll… Why? Scarlett cut him off, her mournful eyes locked on his. Why did you harm my father? Ethan was silent for a moment. Is that all you want to ask? Yes. A chill spread through his heart. His mistress had just made such a passionate phone call, yet she didn't seem to care at all. Her only concern was that pathetic lawsuit. He had been a fool to think otherwise. He wasn't in her heart at all. Ethan spoke with a sneer. You want a divorce over this? Scarlett, be reasonable. Your father did something wrong, he deserves to be punished. And just because I didn't help him evade the law, you're threatening me with divorce. I never knew you could be so irrational. My father was framed. Where's the proof even as his daughter? Can you guarantee 100% that he's innocent? How much do you really know about his affairs? Scarlett stared at him defiantly. My father is clean, he's cleaner than any of you, his temper flared. He gripped her chin and said coldly, Scarlett, don't push me. I can easily dig up something else to keep your father in prison for a few more years. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You can't do that, Ethan sneered. I can do whatever I want. Meeting her resentful gaze, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers, licking and biting fiercely. Scarlett shuddered violently. Jasmine's moans echoed in her ears, and a wave of nausea rose in her chest. She slapped him hard across the face. Don't touch me. A red mark immediately appeared on his cheek. A storm brewed in his dark eyes as he bit out her name, syllable by syllable. Scarlett, Gardner. You don't deserve to, Ethan, his face darkened. What did you say? Scarlett, pushed to her limit, lashed out with any weapon she could find. You have no right to treat me like this. You don't deserve to be my husband if it weren't for the Lancaster family's wealth to support my family. Do you think I would have ever married you? Scarlett, say that again. I'll say it as many times as you want. I married you for the money. The Davidsons, the Jacksons, the Williams. I would have married whoever was the richest. Why do you care? You didn't actually think I married you because I loved you, did you? That's hilarious. You're selfish, cold, arrogant, and a serial cheater. Who could possibly love someone like you? I'd rather love a dog than love you. Ethan, I want a divorce. I can't stand you for another second. Shut up. Veins bulged on Ethan's forehead. Enraged, he grabbed her by the throat to silence her. Scarlett, how dare you? Pain shot through Scarlett's neck as if it were about to snap. The air was squeezed from her lungs, and the sensation of suffocating washed over her. Ethan abruptly released his grip. She couldn't stop coughing, the movement pulling at all her injuries, causing her to twist in agony. He stood before her bed, his tall frame blocking the moonlight, shrouding her in his shadow. You've got some nerve, playing me for a fool. I really underestimated you. Since you care so much about that pathetic company of your father's, so much that you'd sell yourself to save it, then of course I'll have to let you… His lips curled into a cruel arc. Let you watch it crumble to dust with your own two eyes. Scarlett lay weakly on the bed, shaking her head in protest. Ethan watched her coldly. Within 3 days, Gardner Trading will no longer exist in Southport. No, please don't, that's my father's life's work. You can't destroy it, Scarlett wanted to beg him, but when she opened her mouth, only a hoarse rasp came out. Ethan turned to leave. Suddenly, the lights flicked on. Kevin Chambers stood in the doorway, frowning at them. I heard shouting from the room. His gaze then hardened, and he strode quickly to the bed. Scarlett, what's wrong? You're injured, you can't move around like this. Ethan, who had been about to leave, stopped at the name Scarlett and turned back to study the man in the white coat. Kevin gently checked Scarlett's injuries, his brow furrowed with worry. Let me see, the cast needs to be redone. As he examined her shoulder, he noticed the red marks on her neck. His gaze instantly sharpened and shot toward Ethan. Did you lay a hand on her? His voice was icy, completely different from his earlier gentle tone. Ethan stared back at him, his eyes as sharp as blades, the intensity of his gaze almost a physical force. His ferocious expression scared Scarlett. She reached out and grabbed Kevin's arm. "Ken, I'm fine." "Ken," the blood in Ethan's veins froze solid. The scene shifted, and he was back on their wedding night 3 years ago. Scarlett lay beneath him, her face flushed as if it would bleed, her eyes squeezed shut, too shy to look at him. At the peak of their passion, he had leaned in to kiss her, but her moist lips had softly whispered a stranger's name. "Ken, my dear brother." Those 4 words had destroyed any possibility of a happy marriage. They had buried the budding hope in his heart. He had been cold to her for 3 years, and he thought he no longer cared. He never expected that this "Ken, my dear brother" would actually appear before him. No wonder she suddenly wanted a divorce. She had run into her old flame. "Ken, my dear brother." A cold, sinister smile slowly spread across Ethan's face. Then he strode forward, yanked Kevin away from Scarlett's grasp, and threw a vicious punch. "Ethan, stop it." The out-of-control man couldn't hear her, raining punch after punch down on Kevin's face and body. Kevin was quickly bloodied. Scarlett, frantic, slammed the call button repeatedly. Seeing Kevin's bruised and bleeding face, she desperately tumbled out of bed and crawled, inch by inch, to grab Ethan's pant leg. "Ethan, you're going to kill him. Stop hitting him, please." Nurses and security guards rushed in and pulled them apart. Kevin, covered in blood, was rushed to the emergency room. Ethan stood there, spattered with blood, his beast-like eyes fixed on Scarlett with a predatory glare. She couldn't help but flinch. He crouched down, his cold fingers gripping her chin to lift her face. His voice was hoarse and icy. "Found your old lover and now you want to dump me? Scarlett, it's not that easy. You can forget about getting rid of me for the rest of your life." Scarlett's lips trembled, unable to form a single word. He expressionlessly wiped the blood from his hands on the collar of her hospital gown, then turned and left. He never came back. 3 days later, Gardner Trading was acquired by the Lancaster Group. He was never one to be trifled with. What he set his mind to, he achieved. She was no match for him. A week later, Scarlett's condition stabilized, and the Lancaster family came to take her home to recuperate. Kevin strongly advised her to stay in the hospital, but she refused. Before leaving, Scarlett looked at the bandages on Kevin's forehead and chin, her heart full of guilt. "I'm so sorry. You got dragged into this because of me?" Kevin looked at her with deep concern. "I'm fine, Scarlett. It's you I'm worried about." Scarlett said flatly, "Don't worry, he won't hit me." He was above a low-class tactic like domestic violence. When he wanted to torture someone, he would slowly take away everything they held dear. Kevin saw the helplessness in her eyes. "Scarlett, have you ever thought about leaving him?" Scarlett didn't answer. He continued, "My mentor is in the capital city. He's one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the country. With his help, your hand might not be a lost cause." "Scarlett, will you come to the capital city with me?" Scarlett kept her head down. If she could, she would do anything to heal her hand and be able to paint again. But she and Ethan still needed closure. She said, "I need some time, about a month." A month should be enough to settle things here. After returning to the Lancaster mansion, Scarlett tried to visit her father in prison, but was told visitation was not allowed. A few days later, her agent contacted her, asking when she planned to move forward with her art exhibition. Realizing this might be the last exhibition of her life, she felt a wave of sadness and decided she had to make it perfect in the month she had left. Scarlett immediately restarted the preparations, tirelessly heading out in her wheelchair every day, personally overseeing every detail. She didn't know that every night, when she collapsed into bed from exhaustion, Ethan would come home to watch her sleep, leaving before dawn. Leo, who was also pulling all-nighters, asked, "Mrs. Lancaster is working very hard on the exhibition. Should we help?" Ethan paused, then shook his head. She wouldn't accept it. "Then, should we send people to keep an eye on things on opening day? Someone might try to cause trouble." His meaning was clear, and Ethan understood perfectly, but he still shook his head. "Let them. If it makes her understand that I'm the only one who can protect her, then let the exhibition be ruined. I'll throw her a much grander one next time." Leo sighed to himself. He loves her so much, yet he has to hurt her. The boss may be a genius, but when it comes to love, he's hopelessly twisted. He continued, "So, are we still buying the paintings this time?" Ethan leaned back in the car seat, his fatigue softening his features. "Buy them. But don't make it too obvious. Let her save some face. Right? Talk tough, but do all the caring things anyway." Leo wondered if his wife would even appreciate it if she ever found out. "Is that doctor with the surname Chambers gone yet?" Ethan's voice was as cold as a knife. Leo nodded. "It's all taken care of. No hospital in Southport will hire him." Ethan let out a soft scoff and said no more. On the day of the exhibition opening, Scarlett was able to walk again. She put on makeup for the first time in ages, wore a beautiful long dress, and endured the discomfort of high heels to present a perfect image at her farewell exhibition. Just as she had always done, she gracefully and emotionally introduced each of her works. During the final auction, one piece, Dream Wedding, sold for a sky-high price of $10 million. For a living artist of her age, she was already at the top of her field. She stood on the stage, looking at the eager faces in the audience, tears welling in her eyes. Though she could no longer paint, at least she was having a perfect farewell. At the end of the exhibition, just as she was about to announce her retirement from the art world, a loud voice shouted from the crowd. "Genius painter? More like a fraud. Scarlett Gardner, all your works since you were 16 have been painted by ghostwriters. How dare you call yourself one of the great young modern artists?" The hall erupted in an uproar. Scarlett was stunned. Before she could react, more people stood up to make accusations. "I'm the ghostwriter for the painting Mother. All of Scarlett's works from when she was 16 were done by me." "Me too, I was her ghostwriter when she was 17. She threatened that if I didn't paint for her, she'd drive me out of the industry, and no one would ever buy my art again. Her works from when she was 18 were painted by me. That piece, Sunset Glow, which won the Van Gogh Gold Medal, is mine." She said she had connections and fame. That whatever she said, people would believe, and no one would listen to me. The gallery exploded like a powder keg. Scarlett's paintings are known for being unpredictable and ingeniously composed. "I can't believe they were painted by different people. I always said, how could someone so young be so technically skilled and have such a varied style? It was all fake. I heard she has a powerful patron backing her, always buying her paintings at high prices to build her up. Meanwhile, small-time artists like us with no connections just get exploited by people like her." Patron. I heard it was a sugar daddy. She just got lucky. She takes off her clothes, and all our decades of hard work mean nothing. Scarlett's face was pale. She gripped the edge of the lectern tightly and shouted, "I did not use ghostwriters. All of my works were painted by my own two hands, and the idea of a patron or sugar daddy is absurd. Don't spread lies." The girl who claimed to be her 18-year-old ghostwriter looked at her with contempt. "You really won't give up until you're cornered? Fine. Then paint something for us right now, in front of everyone. If you can replicate the skill and style of your previous works, I'll get on my knees and apologize." "Yes, paint for us now. Here's your chance to prove your innocence." "Take it." An easel and paints were quickly set up on the stage. Scarlett bit her lip, took a deep breath, and lifted her trembling right hand. She tried to recall the fluid motions she once knew so well and made a light stroke. A crooked, shaky line appeared on the canvas. The audience roared with laughter. "That's hilarious. My 8-year-old nephew can draw better than that. How can someone like this be hailed as a genius painter? The world has gone mad. I'd love to know who her sugar daddy is. This is a total embarrassment. Scarlett Gardner, get out of the art world." "No, that's not it," Scarlett tried to explain frantically. "My hand is injured. I'm not lying to you." But no one was listening anymore. She was kicked out of her own farewell exhibition. Scarlett walked aimlessly through the streets, her spirit crushed. She couldn't understand why those people would slander her. "No, I have to find a way to clear my name." Suddenly, she saw a security camera outside a shop, and an idea sparked. Her studio had surveillance. The entire process of her creating each painting should have been recorded. If she could get the surveillance footage, the truth would be undeniable. She rushed home and turned on her computer. After a few clicks, her expression froze. Empty. There was nothing. All the surveillance records had been wiped clean. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been poured over her head, chilling her to the bone. Suddenly, the study door opened. Jasmine Rivers, whom she hadn't seen in a while, walked in. She looked triumphant, dangling a keychain and whistling. "Looking for evidence to turn the tables, like, say, surveillance videos?" Scarlett's head snapped toward her. It was you. Jasmine's face was alight with glee. Did you enjoy this morning's little drama? I went to a lot of trouble to build up some buzz for your exhibition. Scarlett's hands clenched into fists. You hired those people to slander me. Why would you do that? Why? To teach her a lesson, of course. Last time, when Arthur Gardner was imprisoned, she had practically stripped down and put on a show in the hotel room. But Ethan had remained completely unmoved. He only reacted when she called to provoke Scarlett. But the moment Scarlett mentioned breaking up, his face had darkened, and he had abandoned her without a second glance while Scarlett was hospitalized. Jasmine had taken the opportunity to move into the Lancaster mansion, hoping to get closer to him. Ethan had let her stay, but he put her in the most remote guest room. She never even saw him. She finally understood. He had orchestrated everything, using her as a tool to provoke Scarlett. He had feelings for her, that wretch, that homewrecker. Even after getting into an accident, she's still seducing men. Since Scarlett had made her miserable, she would destroy her in return. Jasmine looked at Scarlett with a fake smile. There's no why. You made me unhappy, so I'm making you unhappy. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being useless. All I had to do was lift a finger, and you were utterly defeated. Scarlett stared at her gloating face, unable to comprehend how she and Ethan could so casually destroy someone else's life. Just because they had money? Was this the kind of person she had fallen in love with? Seeing Scarlett's devastated expression, Jasmine was immensely satisfied. She continued smugly, "The video you're looking for is right here." She tossed the keychain in her hand. It was a USB drive. "You should thank Ethan for this. If he hadn't let me stay here for a few days, I never would have had the chance to discover what you had on your computer." Scarlett looked up at her. Jasmine dangled the USB drive, her expression growing more joyful. "Scarlett, if you get on your knees and beg me, I'll give it to you. What do you say?" Scarlett's lips tightened. Jasmine's voice was a seductive whisper. "Just kneel, and your future, your reputation, it can all be saved. Why make things difficult for me? I have no grudge against you. I just need to let off some steam, and then I'll leave you alone. You're as lowly as an ant, yet you had the audacity to steal my man. That was your mistake. Kneeling and apologizing to me is what you owe me. So, Scarlett, are you going to kneel or not?" Scarlett stood up and slowly walked over to Jasmine, looking directly into her mocking eyes. "I have never met anyone more shameless than you. If you ever truly loved Ethan Lancaster, then you should get on your knees and apologize to the person you once were. Because you've twisted her into a treacherous, selfish, malicious fool." The color drained from Jasmine's face. Her eyes, glistening with unshed tears, glared at Scarlett. "Who do you think you are? How dare you lecture me? Of course I love Ethan. I had no choice back then." "But you're still hurting him," Scarlett said coldly. "No matter how much you despise me, I am still his lawfully wedded wife. By slandering me and ruining my reputation today, do you really think it won't affect him? Or the Lancaster Group's stock price? You can never see beyond your own petty grievances. You're utterly pathetic. You..." Jasmine was speechless, her face a mask of defiance, but she couldn't find the words to argue. Scarlett had no desire to waste any more time on her. She snatched the USB drive and walked away. As she reached the top of the stairs, she heard Jasmine's voice, seething with hatred, closing in from behind. "You wretch, only when you're utterly disgraced will Ethan divorce you. Everything I'm doing is for Ethan." A jolt of alarm shot through Scarlett. She tried to dodge, but a powerful shove from behind sent her tumbling down the stairs. "Ah!" A sharp crack echoed from her recently healed leg. She screamed in agony, unable to get up from the floor. Jasmine froze, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. She walked down the stairs, picked up the USB drive, and forced herself to sound composed. "Stop faking it, it's just a few steps. How could it hurt that much? Serves you right for making me angry." With that, she scurried away. Scarlett's leg was convulsing in pain. She wanted to call for help, but her phone was just out of reach. As pain clouded her senses, the face that appeared in her mind was Ethan's. "It hurts so much, Ethan, save me." But there was no answer. He had never given her an answer. In the end, it was the housekeeper, returning from grocery shopping, who found Scarlett and sent her to the hospital. The bone that had just begun to heal had fractured again. She was back in a cast, lying in a hospital bed. On the phone, her agent pleaded with her. "Scarlett, I know you've been wronged, but these kinds of slander campaigns don't care about the truth. If you can't prove your innocence, the damage is done." The Artists Association has already revoked your membership. Past buyers are also very upset. They're all demanding refunds. Scarlett managed a bitter smile. Give me their contact information. I'll call them personally to apologize and arrange the refunds. Her agent sighed. It's not a small amount. The company will try to negotiate for a few more days. We'll only hand over the ones we can't resolve. Scarlett, try to look on the bright side, take a break for a while. Later, we can try again with a new pseudonym. But you can't show your face in public anymore. Scarlett quietly hung up the phone. The damage was done. The public outcry was still growing. Her name was trending on Twitter, and posts demanding she be kicked out of the art world had thousands of comments. She never imagined that her life's passion, her painting career, would end like this. She would forever be branded a thief and a fraud, a pillar of shame for the entire art community. It was so unfair, but there was nothing she could do. No matter how hard she tried, everything was slipping through her fingers like sand. She couldn't hold on to anything. Ethan finished his business trip today in high spirits. Things with the Rivers family were progressing smoothly. If all went well, the matter would be resolved soon. He thought he might go see Scarlett's exhibition today. She seemed to have poured her heart into it, working from dawn till dusk every day. I should have sent someone to watch over it. If it gets ruined by troublemakers, she'll be devastated. She had been behaving herself lately, no more talk of divorce. His good mood made him feel more lenient toward her. That was until he received a call from the housekeeper. Sir, Mrs. Lancaster is in the hospital. His heart plummeted. He barked at Leo. Drive faster to the hospital. As the car sped up, he couldn't stop the panic from rising. Once again, he wasn't by her side when she needed him. It seemed fated that they would always miss each other. By the time he reached the hospital room, a light sweat had broken out on Ethan's brow. Scarlett seemed to be expecting him. She was sitting up against the headboard, her gaze as still as dead water. Ethan's throat felt tight. He sat down by her bed and lifted the blanket to look at her leg. One leg was encased in a pristine white cast, the other covered in bruises. Her visible arms were also a patchwork of purple and blue marks. A sharp pain shot through his heart, followed by a surge of rage. He closed his eyes for a moment. Scarlett, was it you who drove Kevin Chambers away? She cut him off. Hearing her question, his brow furrowed and his voice turned cold. Is that all you care about? Scarlett stared at him fixedly. He studied for 20 years, spent 3 years in Africa with Doctors Without Borders, a brilliant surgeon who saved countless lives. And with a flick of your finger, you destroyed his life's ambition. Ethan, you're despicable. The fire in Ethan's mind roared to life. Today, she had been slandered, her reputation and future destroyed. She had been pushed down the stairs and hospitalized. And the first thing she does when she sees her husband isn't to cry or complain, but to stand up for another man? She can't let him go, can she? Even when her own life is a mess, he's the first person she protects. Ethan's hands clenched into tight fists under the covers, but a mocking smile played on his lips. Yes, I am that despicable. The life he worked so hard to build, I can destroy with a snap of my fingers. The skills he's so proud of, I can find a replacement for in minutes. Everyone has their price, and in my eyes, his is worthless. He smiled cruelly. Originally, he didn't have to pay this price. Scarlett, it was you who brought him before me. He has you to thank for what happened to him today. Scarlett quietly watched the smiling man before her and suddenly realized with chilling clarity that he and Jasmine were the same kind of people. From the very beginning, she had loved the wrong person. Her gaze grew cold, tinged with a hint of despair and sorrow. Under her stare, Ethan once again felt that inexplicable panic. She asked softly, "Then what about me? What's my price?" "Ethan, what will it take for you to let me go?" His brow tightened. She continued, her voice distant, "I was wrong. I should never have married you in the first place. I took advantage of your mother's kindness and forced this on you. But you haven't made it easy for me these past few years. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be lying here right now. So, can we just call it even? Let's get a divorce." Ethan's jaw clenched, and he let out a cold, sharp laugh. "In your dreams, Scarlett, in this relationship, you don't have the right to say when it's over." He stood up abruptly and left, afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would lose control again. She was still sick. He didn't want to scare her anymore. "Ethan," his hand was on the doorknob. He took a deep breath, trying to sound calm. "What is it?" I'm going to press charges against Jasmine Rivers. He paused, then said, You can't. Scarlett didn't reply. He turned back, his tone a warning. Scarlett, don't cause more trouble. Then he opened the door and left. Silence returned to the room. Scarlett turned her head to look at the moonlit window, feeling a sudden pang of envy. Some people, no matter how awful they were, would always have someone who chose them, steadfastly and without question. Unlike her, she had never been chosen. The day after she was hospitalized, Kevin Chambers appeared. Without his white coat, dressed in a simple white shirt and casual pants, he still looked sharp and handsome. Scarlett looked down, unable to meet his eyes. I'm sorry. You lost your job because of me? Kevin patted her head. Don't worry about it, Scarlett. It's just a job. It's not enough to break me. There are plenty of places outside of Southport that would welcome me. So, are you leaving? Scarlett, I'm waiting for you. He looked into her bewildered eyes and sighed. I can't stand to see you stay with the Lancaster family. Look at you, you're a wreck. Scarlett, come to the capital city with me. I'll have my mentor treat you. The intensity in his eyes forced her to look away. She said softly, Ken, you don't have to do this. My family only sponsored your education for a few years. It was a small gesture. You don't have to feel indebted to me. Kevin's gaze softened. After my mother passed away, you and your father gave me a home. It wasn't a debt, Scarlett. You are my only family. When your father got into trouble, I couldn't help him. I already feel so guilty about that. But I can't just stand by and watch what's happening to you. Ethan Lancaster is not good to you. Come with me. You deserve someone better. Someone better. You don't mean yourself, do you? A mocking voice came from the doorway. Ethan was standing there, his expression aloof, his tone laced with sarcasm. Dr. Chambers is encouraging another man's wife to get a divorce, some new form of therapy. Kevin's face was grim. Some people only bring scars to others. Leaving the wrong person can indeed heal a broken life. Ethan sneered. You have no right to judge what's right or wrong. Scarlett is my wife, and I'm taking her with me now. You have no right to stop me. What? Kevin frowned. She shouldn't be moved right now. You can't take her. The Lancaster family has a professional nursing team. You don't need to worry. Ethan walked over, subtly positioning himself between Kevin and Scarlett. He reached out to touch Scarlett's face, but she closed her eyes and turned her head away. Ethan's hand froze. He coldly ordered his men to come in, secure Scarlett, and take her away. Ethan Lancaster, you torture your own wife for your selfish desires. What kind of man are you? Kevin was furious. He tried to step forward to stop them but was held back by several men. Scarlett said anxiously, I'll go with you, just don't hurt him. Ken, don't worry, I'm fine. Take care of yourself. Go live your own life. Don't get dragged down by me anymore. Ethan adjusted his cufflinks and said slowly, Dr. Chambers, I suggest you mind your own business and stay away from another man's wife. Leave Southport as soon as you can. Don't make me regret letting you off the hook. He followed Scarlett's stretcher out of the room. Kevin, pinned against the wall, shouted after him, You'll regret this, you'll definitely regret treating her this way. Ethan's lips twitched into a smirk. Regret? He did have regrets. He regretted not keeping her firmly in his grasp sooner, letting outsiders covet her, and allowing her to entertain thoughts she shouldn't have. From now on, she wouldn't take a single step away from him. Scarlett was locked up. She hadn't expected Ethan to be so ruthless this time. He had replaced the entire security system of the villa, and she no longer had the clearance to even open the outer gates. In the afternoon, her agent came to discuss client compensation and took her for a walk in the small garden. Seeing the luxurious villa, she breathed a sigh of relief. I was worried about you. These compensations are no small sum. But seeing how rich your husband is, you probably don't have much to worry about. Scarlett gave a bitter smile. Her husband was indeed rich, but their relationship was in shambles. She would never ask him for anything again. Besides, in less than a month, she would be divorcing him. But the compensation amount was too large. Even emptying her entire savings wouldn't be enough. Her eyes darted around, and her thoughts returned to the pink heart diamond. Since she couldn't leave, she decided to ask her agent to take the ring out, get it appraised, and sell it to cover the compensation. The problem was, after Leo had returned the ring, she had carelessly tossed it aside and couldn't remember where she had put it. Just as she was about to ask the housekeeper, Ethan emerged from his room. Passing by the garden, he walked up behind Scarlett, leaned over her wheelchair, and whispered in her ear, "I have a business dinner tonight." Scarlett was confused, and, "Have some hangover soup ready for me when I get back." Scarlett pressed her lips together. In the past, she used to make hangover soup for him every time he went out drinking, but he either wouldn't drink it or wouldn't come home at all. Eventually, she got the hint and stopped making it. She had no idea what had gotten into him now. Seeing her silence, Ethan added, "The last one you made was too sweet. Use less sugar this time." Scarlett paused. So he had tried it before? He just didn't finish it because it was too sweet. After giving his instructions, Ethan stood up to leave. Her agent, who was sitting opposite her, exclaimed, "Mr. Lancaster." Scarlett was taken aback. "You know him?" That was strange. She had never heard of the Lancaster Group having any involvement in the arts. And Ethan was very private, never appearing in magazines or on TV. Most people wouldn't recognize him. Ethan glanced down at the agent. She immediately shut her mouth. Scarlett, I have something else to attend to, so I'll be going now. I'll come see you again soon." The two of them left, one after the other. Scarlett was left in the garden, utterly bewildered. She hadn't even had a chance to talk to her about the ring. Why did she leave in such a hurry? Oh well, she'd have to find the ring first. The housekeeper who used to help Scarlett tidy her room was on leave, so the current one didn't know where the ring was. She suggested that items not in frequent use were often stored in the basement. It was Scarlett's first time going down to the basement. She rarely wore jewelry and had no idea there was a temperature-controlled vault down there, filled with jewelry from major brands that Ethan bought for her every season. Sure enough, the pink heart was inside. She took the ring and was about to leave when she noticed a hidden door next to the vault. Curious, she pushed it open and went inside. She flicked on the light and froze. The spacious room was filled with paintings hanging on all four walls. They were all the paintings she had sold over the years. Some were from as far back as her first exhibition at 16. But she clearly remembered that painting had been bought by a British entrepreneur. Why was it here? Scarlett felt dizzy. She gripped the arms of her wheelchair and tried to remember. From 16 to 21, her paintings had sold for modest prices, ranging from $10,000 to $100,000. Then, at 22, one of her works suddenly sold for $1 million. At the same time, her older pieces were rediscovered, and she became an online sensation. After that, her fame skyrocketed, and she officially joined the ranks of renowned artists, with her works fetching millions every year. Could it be Ethan? She stared at the paintings on the wall, examining them one by one. The more she looked, the more shocked she became. All of her high-priced paintings were in this room. It was Ethan. He had bought her paintings, created buzz around her, and turned her into a genius artist. She thought back to the exhibition, to the people who had indignantly accused her of having a powerful patron, of being propped up by someone behind the scenes. It was all true. Ethan had been paving the way for her. No wonder her agent had reacted so strangely upon seeing him. She knew Ethan had bought her paintings, she just didn't know they were husband and wife. A heavy weight settled in Scarlett's chest, and she began to tremble. It was laughable. She had been fighting with all her might to clear her name, to defend the career she had built over so many years. But her celebrated talent, her honors, they were all fake. It was all just a dream, a fantasy granted to her because her wealthy husband needed her to have a status that matched his own. It turned out she was nothing. She had never truly owned anything. The ring dug deep into her palm. Her vision blurred, and tears streamed down her face. These paintings were once her pride and joy. Now they were nothing but a bitter irony. "Ethan, you deceived me so completely." That night, when Ethan came home, Scarlett was sitting alone in the living room, a single lamp on, as if waiting for him. He felt a flicker of pleasure. She was finally remembering her duties as a wife. He walked briskly up behind her, but seeing the empty table, he asked, "Where's the hangover soup?" Scarlett didn't answer. Ethan looked down and saw a pile of objects leaning against the wall, covered by a black velvet cloth. Scarlett leaned over, yanked the cloth away, and dozens of picture frames, stacked one on top of the other, came into view. Ethan's heart sank. She knew. Scarlett's face was devoid of expression. "Do you have anything to say?" Ethan's lips tightened. He felt a bit awkward. Secretly buying his own wife's paintings to support her felt a little presumptuous, given their relationship. Being caught red-handed by Scarlett made him feel a little embarrassed. The alcohol he had drunk earlier churned in his stomach. He rubbed his face in frustration and plopped down into a chair with a swagger. "I bought them. I couldn't stand seeing you paint for so long and still be a nobody, so I gave you a little push." "What, you're going to thank me now?" Scarlett closed her eyes. "Thank you? Yes, I should thank you. Thank you for letting me know I was nothing. That all the accomplishments I was so proud of all these years were just handouts from the great Mr. Lancaster. I really should thank you, Ethan. Your girlfriend destroyed my future, and you showed me that my past was a lie too." Her voice trembled, her body tense. Ethan said instinctively, "Don't be ridiculous," seeing her expression. A sudden emptiness hollowed out his chest. He knew she was unusually dedicated to her career, but he had underestimated how much this meant to her. He thought he was just showing some support, and even if he had gone a little overboard, it was harmless. He never expected this reaction. This wasn't just her career, it was her dream, her dignity, the source of her inner strength. She might have been able to withstand attacks from the outside, but this negation from within would shatter her entire perception of herself. She could no longer believe in herself. Ethan's lips moved, and he began to explain, "At first, it was just to support you, but I also genuinely thought your work was excellent." Scarlett sneered. "Since when did Mr. Lancaster become an expert on oil painting? You think a piece is excellent, so you buy it and hide it in the basement." Ethan was speechless. He didn't argue. He really didn't understand art, but he was always drawn to the unique emotional expression in her work. Besides supporting her, he genuinely loved her paintings. He just hadn't wanted to admit it because of their strained relationship. Feeling that his good deed had been met with such hostility, Ethan's face grew cold. "What? I'm not qualified to collect your paintings. Then who is?" "Kevin Chambers." A few days ago, he had sent someone to the gallery to retrieve her paintings, only to be told that Kevin had already collected them all on her behalf. The thought still infuriated him. Here, they're kept in a climate-controlled basement. In that tiny apartment of Kevin's, where do you think they'll end up? Scarlett said coldly. "What does this have to do with him? Stop changing the subject," Ethan sneered. "Scarlett, don't be ungrateful. I was helping you. Do you think the art world is so pure? Without someone to promote you, you'd be nothing more than a hobbyist for the rest of your life, no matter how talented you are. Your paintings would just be worthless paper. Those are the rules of the game." "What can that doctor give you? He can't even get a ticket to the game." "Enough," Scarlett snapped. "In your eyes, is everything a game, something you can manipulate? Ethan, if I didn't earn the respect of others through my own merit, what meaning does any of this have? You've turned me into a joke." Scarlett's voice broke, and tears streamed down her cheeks. She looked pale and shattered. "Ethan, you will never understand me." Ethan clenched his fists, his chest tightening. He doesn't understand her. Then who does? Kevin Chambers. He couldn't figure out why she was so obsessed with a simple doctor, so what if he's a good person? "I'll never let them." His thoughts came to a halt as he stared at Scarlett, his eyes wide. "What are you doing?" Scarlett had produced an axe from somewhere. Her eyes were terrifyingly red as she glared at the paintings on the floor. "You were right. They're just a pile of worthless paper." With that, she raised the axe and brought it crashing down on the stack of paintings with a few loud crashes. The picture frames shattered, and the canvases were torn to shreds. Ethan's scalp tingled. He lunged forward and wrapped his arms around her. Scarlett stopped, fearing she would hurt herself. He snatched the axe from her hands. She pushed him away, but her wheelchair rolled onto a broken frame and tipped over, sending her tumbling onto the shattered glass. A searing pain shot through her body. She lay on the floor, her eyes level with her first $1 million painting from when she was 23. She had painted it when she and Ethan got engaged. That was her most glorious year, a success in both her career and her love life. She never imagined it was all just an illusion. With a mournful sob, she grabbed the painting and ripped it apart. Blood stained the canvas, turning the vast starry sky into a sea of red. Scarlett, Ethan was furious. He scooped her up and roared. "Are you out of your mind?" Seeing her hands covered in blood and the wreckage on the floor, his heart felt like it was being squeezed by a giant hand, aching with a sharp, sour pain. "Are you trying to destroy yourself so you never have to paint again?" After the outburst, Scarlett seemed to have lost all her strength, slumping limply in Ethan's arms. He carried her back to the bedroom to treat her wounds. Her body ached, but her soul felt detached, staring blankly at the dust motes dancing in the air. Ethan's heart trembled with pain. He forced himself to be gentle as he cleaned the blood and applied antiseptic. Seeing her weak and pale, he couldn't help but say, "Scarlett, do you have so little confidence in yourself? Even with my support, your talent is undeniable. So many artists admire you. Why are you so fixated on this?" Scarlett's voice was light and faint, as if it might float away at any moment. "Is that so? Do they admire me or the patron behind me? Congratulations, Ethan. You've successfully confirmed all the lies they threw at me." A dangerous tide swelled in Ethan's deep eyes. "I know the recent online rumors have been hard on you. Give me some time, I'll handle it. You rest and heal. I promise you will be a sought-after artist again." But she was tired. She couldn't paint anymore, and she didn't want to. She kept losing again and again. Love, family, reputation, career. She had nothing left, no courage to start over. Scarlett closed her eyes wearily and said with a sigh, "Ethan, let me go, I'm begging you. It was my fault. It was all my fault." Seeing the tears glistening at the corners of her eyes, Ethan felt his own eyes burn. He pretended not to hear. With a frown, he finished dressing her wounds and quickly left. The living room was still a mess. He didn't wake the housekeeper. Instead, he started cleaning it up himself, piece by piece. For the first time in his life, the privileged young master of the Lancaster family held a broom, clumsily sweeping up shards of glass. The battered canvases lay on the floor, as broken as Scarlett had been just moments before. He suddenly felt a sense of bewilderment. For the first time, he wondered if he had done the wrong thing. He had never tried to understand Scarlett, yet he had stubbornly imposed his own ideas on her. Her pain now was all his doing. He had blamed her, resented her, deliberately treated her coldly. But he never imagined that her pain would cause him even greater pain. The thought that he had personally pushed her further and further away was an agony beyond words. It was his fault. From now on, he would be better to her. After that night, Scarlett fell ill, running a fever for several days. She was listless and had no appetite. She wouldn't speak, nor would she listen to anyone else. It was as if she had become an island, determined to sever all ties with the world. Ethan watched as she ate less and less each day, until eventually she was eating almost nothing at all. He was both worried and angry, having tried everything from kind words to harsh scolding. Scarlett just lay with her eyes closed, silent. Lately, she had been experiencing tinnitus, making it hard to hear the outside world. "If I can't hear, then so be it," she thought. "I don't care anyway." She no longer cared about anything in this world. With no other choice, Ethan had to call a doctor to give her IV nutrients. From not eating for so long, her stomach had begun to atrophy, showing clear signs of disease. Ethan was frantic. Day by day, she grew thinner, as if she were becoming more transparent with each passing moment. As if she might disappear at any time. His heart felt like it was being torn apart. Finally, he admitted defeat. He lay down beside her, his body slumped in exhaustion, and wrapped his arms around her frail, bony frame, burying his face in her neck. "Scarlett, don't do this to me. I won't force you anymore. Do whatever you want. Love whoever you want to love. I won't hold it against you. Everything you've lost, I'll get it back for you, I swear. Just don't give up." His eyes grew moist, and his voice choked with emotion. "You wanted a divorce, didn't you? I agree. Just get better, and I'll set you free." The person in his arms remained still and silent. A housekeeper knocked and came in with a meal. Ethan took the sweet porridge and brought a spoonful to her lips. "Come on, just one bite, please." He expected the usual lack of response, but to his surprise, Scarlett slightly opened her mouth. Ethan was overjoyed and carefully fed her, bit by bit. After half an hour, Scarlett had finished half a bowl of porridge. It was the happiest Ethan had been in days. Then he remembered that it was likely his agreement to the divorce that had sparked this tiny will to live in her. His joy vanished. He had never imagined that being his wife was a fate worse than death. He was such a failure. Before he could sink into self-recrimination, Scarlett suddenly retched violently, throwing up all the porridge she had just eaten. Her stomach was too fragile. It could no longer handle food. That night, Ethan had no choice but to rush her to the hospital, and, swallowing his pride, he called Kevin Chambers to come and take care of her. Kevin Chambers arrived quickly. Seeing Scarlett's condition, he was overcome with rage and punched Ethan squarely in the face. She's your wife even if you don't love her. You have no right to treat her like this. Ethan glared at Kevin, wiped the corner of his mouth, and said nothing. Just then, a doctor entered, and Kevin suppressed his anger to discuss Scarlett's condition. As they talked about her symptoms, Kevin's expression grew darker and darker. The doctor, flipping through her chart, shook his head slightly, saying that her leg hadn't healed properly after the second injury and that her right hand showed signs of another stress fracture from recent overuse. Ethan's face paled. It must have happened when she destroyed the paintings. She was in so much pain, and she didn't even make a sound. Kevin, barely containing his fury, sneered, "Mr. Lancaster, you really have a way with things. Her right hand was already recovering poorly, and you managed to get her to injure it again in such a short time. She can no longer paint with that hand. Are you trying to completely cripple her before you're satisfied?" Ethan's face went white. He shot a look at Kevin. "What did you say? Can't paint." Her right hand suffered multiple fractures in the car accident. It will never recover to what it once was. That's why she couldn't replicate her technique at the exhibition to prove her innocence. Ethan felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He thought she had just been nervous. He had no idea her injury was so severe. She loved painting more than life itself. He couldn't imagine the blow this must have been to her, and what had he done? No comfort, no compensation, and he certainly hadn't sought justice for her. Instead, he had pushed her, step by step, into a corner. He knew Jasmine was malicious, yet he had arrogantly allowed her to get close. He thought he could control everything, but instead, Scarlett was targeted and hurt again and again, with irreversible consequences. What was he so arrogant about? Scarlett was right. He was selfish, cold, arrogant, and had shamelessly hurt others to soothe his own bruised ego. He truly was a terrible person. Kevin saw the blood drain from Ethan's face and felt a flicker of satisfaction. He continued, "You didn't even know about her hand. I suppose you also don't know that Scarlett has been suffering from mild depression for the past few years?" "What? Depression?" Ethan stared at him, bewildered. The expression on Kevin's face was almost cruel. "Let me tell you, from the day she became Mrs. Lancaster, she has not known a moment of happiness. You and she are from different worlds. She fought so hard to enter your world, and instead of protecting her, you treated her with coldness and cruelty. If her own husband treats her like that, how do you expect anyone else to respect her? Do you have any idea how many people have humiliated and bullied her behind her back? Your other women may not have dared to confront her directly, but do you think they didn't resort to petty tricks? Everyone was just waiting for her to get a divorce and make way for someone else. And you ignored your wife while welcoming any woman who threw herself at you. She must have been blind. How could she have fallen in love with someone like you?" Ethan couldn't even lift his head, but one phrase suddenly struck him. He looked at Kevin in confusion. "She loves me. I thought she loved you." Kevin gave a bitter smile. "I don't know how you came to that misunderstanding, but she has loved you for 7 years, and she has known you for 17 years. 17 years ago, Scarlett was 8 years old. Mischievous and playful, she had snuck out of her house to go to the amusement park she had been dreaming of, but halfway there, she got lost. Ethan was 10 that year. Fed up with the strange atmosphere at home, he had given his driver the slip on the way home from school and run away. That's how the two children met. They hit it off immediately. Ethan took the chubby little girl, who looked like a cherub, to the amusement park. They played wildly all day, going on every ride and eating all the ice cream their parents would never allow. It wasn't until the sun began to set that Ethan walked her home. At the gate of her old house, Scarlett shyly asked the handsome older boy for his name. He thought for a long time before telling her, "Ken, my name is Ken." And so, Scarlett remembered the name of the dear brother Ken who had spent the day with her. She never expected that the next time they met would be 10 years later. As a freshman in college, Scarlett saw the upperclassman representative at the orientation assembly, a junior named Ethan Lancaster, and recognized him at once as her dear brother Ken. But her appearance had changed so much since childhood that Ethan didn't recognize her. She hesitated for days, wondering if she should go up to him. Then one day, as she was passing the basketball court, she didn't see a ball flying her way. He blocked it for her and looked at the young freshman with interest. Her face was unfamiliar, but her round, doe-like eyes seemed strangely familiar and very pretty. He was the golden boy, used to getting what he wanted. He was always direct and asked for her number on the spot. He smiled with a lazy, roguish charm, and Scarlett's heart pounded. She knew in that moment that she could no longer see him as the childhood playmate, her brother Ken. She had fallen in love with him at first sight. But the very next day, she saw a picture of another girl on his social media. It was Jasmine Rivers, rumored to be his childhood sweetheart and girlfriend. Her courage deflated like a popped balloon. Her budding crush instantly turned into a bitter, secret love. He seemed to have forgotten about her and never contacted her again. She remained a silent follower on his social media for years. Until 4 years later, by a twist of fate, they were engaged and then married. Kevin sat by the hospital bed, looking at Scarlett's sleeping face, a bitter smile on his lips. I once thought I was the one she loved too. She had a jar filled with paper stars, and on every single star, she had written the name Ken, my dear brother. Later, I gathered the courage to ask her about it, and she told me the story. She said that Ethan Lancaster was a name she couldn't touch, but Ken, my dear brother, was hers alone. Ethan stood by the window, his eyes red, his heart a mixture of sorrow and joy. His thoughts traveled back 17 years, and he finally remembered. He had, for a brief time, had another name. Ken. It was the name of his cousin who had died young. Back then, the head of the Lancaster family was his uncle. Devastated by the loss of his only son, his uncle had forcefully adopted Ethan, even changing his name to his cousin's. The family was in constant turmoil during that time, the atmosphere oppressive. A month later, Ethan's father successfully regained control of the company and his son. He had long since buried that humiliating month in the back of his mind, never imagining that a bullet fired back then would hit him square between the eyes 17 years later. All of this because of such a ridiculous misunderstanding. He and Scarlett had ended up here. If he had, just once, swallowed his pride and asked her about the doubt in his heart, maybe things wouldn't have come to this. And Scarlett wouldn't have suffered so much. His chest ached so much he could barely breathe. He slowly covered his face, leaning weakly against the glass. It was his fault. His arrogance had hurt the girl he loved and destroyed their future. Kevin said grimly, I don't know what's happened between you two recently, but judging by her condition, her depression has progressed from mild to moderate. Ethan Lancaster, if you have any conscience left, I hope you will stop doing things that make her unhappy. Please, give her a chance to live. Ethan was silent for a long time, then turned and left. Right now, the most unhappy thing for her was seeing him. He had made so many mistakes. This was the consequence he deserved. Though it tore him apart, he had to give her space. Besides, he still had things to finish. He had promised he would get back everything she had lost. A week later, Jasmine Rivers stormed into Scarlett's hospital room. She looked haggard, her eyes bloodshot, a far cry from her previous arrogant demeanor. It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who turned Ethan against me, Scarlett frowned. What are you talking about? Jasmine looked crazed, her eyes fixed on Scarlett. You wretch, you must have been spreading lies otherwise. Ethan would never do this to me. She grabbed Scarlett's wrist and started dragging her out. You're coming with me to see Ethan. You're going to tell him to stop targeting the Rivers family. He's already destroyed me. He can't destroy my family too. Her grip was painful. Scarlett said angrily, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen him in a long time. Let go of me before they reached the door. A figure rushed in from outside, grabbed Jasmine, and threw her to the floor. Didn't I tell you not to bother Scarlett? Ethan glared at Jasmine. She cowered on the floor and burst into tears. Ethan, I've been punished enough. You can't be so heartless. It's me. Jasmine, I was your fiancé. Do you really have no feelings for me at all? Ethan shot her a look of disgust and gestured for security to drag her away. Then he turned cautiously to Scarlett. Are you okay? Scarlett rubbed her wrist. What happened to her? Ethan's tone was cold. She brought it on herself. He took out his phone, opened Twitter, and handed it to Scarlett. She hadn't looked at her phone in days and had no idea what had been trending. The story of Jasmine hiring actors to slander Scarlett had been exposed. Bank transfer records and chat logs were all over the internet. There was also surveillance footage of her accessing Scarlett's computer and stealing video files at the Lancaster mansion. Scarlett hadn't even known there were so many cameras in the house. The surveillance footage of her creating her art in her studio was pinned to the top of the feed, along with a medical report detailing the fractures in her right hand. The genius painter, went from being universally condemned to universally pitied. Jasmine's image as a malicious heiress sparked public outrage. The entire nation condemned her, causing the Rivers family's stock to plummet. She had been kicked out of her home after a severe scolding and had come to beg Ethan for mercy. Scarlett quietly looked at the evidence online and said softly, "I see, thank you." It was clear he had this evidence all along, yet he had stood by and watched as she was pushed into a corner. She didn't know why he had done it, but she didn't want to ask now either. As if reading her mind, Ethan, for the first time, offered an explanation. "I had reasons for not being able to move against her before. Scarlett, your father's case, it was the Rivers family who framed him." Scarlett froze. "The Rivers family framed my father?" "Yes. The financial troubles Gardner Trading faced were their doing. After I stepped in, they realized they couldn't take down your family as long as I was around. So they changed tactics and targeted your father. Walter King, the finance director, was bought by them. He doctored the tax records to frame your father. I have all the evidence now. We're just waiting for the police to arrest Walter, and then your father's case can be retried. He'll be exonerated." Scarlett was silent for a moment, then asked, "So you were nice to Jasmine before to get close to her and gather evidence?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, Jasmine isn't very bright. She was the easiest target. Leo and his team also found many loopholes in the Rivers group. This time, it's the Rivers family who will be going to prison." Scarlett lowered her head and said, "Thank you." After a few seconds of silence, she added quietly, "You could have told me. I'm not stupid enough to ruin your plans. I wasn't afraid you would ruin my plans." Ethan's voice grew deep, his dark eyes swirling with complex emotions. "Scarlett, I was afraid of admitting to myself that I like you, so I used others as a shield. It was my fault. I was too afraid to face my own feelings and I hurt you." Scarlett thought she must have misheard. Ethan liked her? How was that possible? He had always been so cold to her, colder than a stranger. How could he possibly like her? She gave a self-deprecating smile. "You've helped me a lot, so there's no need to say things like that. We don't owe each other anything." Her distant attitude sent a chill through his heart. He took a step forward, wanting to explain himself clearly, but he saw Scarlett take a step back. She looked up at him, her expression serious. "Ethan, you promised to divorce me before. Does that offer still stand?" Ethan froze on the spot. He had been incredibly busy these past few days, busy enough to deliberately forget about this, but there was no escaping it. He stared at Scarlett for a few moments, then said, "You're still not fully recovered. Can we talk about this later?" Scarlett shook her head. "I've decided to go to the capital city with Ken. We're leaving next week. His mentor has agreed to treat me. I want to get this settled before I leave." Each word pierced Ethan's ears. He felt like a fish thrown onto the shore, gasping for air. His voice was hoarse. "Does it have to be so soon? Can't you wait a little longer?" "Ethan, there's no point anymore." Their marriage had long been meaningless. Dragging it out would only cause more pain. They both needed to cut ties with their messy past and move on to a new future. Ethan was silent for a long time, so long that Scarlett thought he might not answer at all. Then, very, very softly, he said, "But I'm your dear brother Ken." Scarlett didn't quite hear him. She was about to ask him to repeat himself when he cut her off. "Fine, Scarlett, if this is what you want, I'll give it to you." With that, he walked out of the room, each step heavy. His tall frame seemed to stoop slightly, radiating an endless sense of dejection and loneliness. Scarlett looked away, toward the sunlight streaming through the window. She needed a new beginning. Let the past be carried away by the wind. 2 days later, Scarlett visited her father, who had been transferred to a detention center, and told him she was leaving. Her father's expression was a mixture of sorrow and relief. His daughter had grown up, but the cost of that growth had been too painful. A week later, Scarlett and Ethan emerged from the city hall. From this day forward, she was no longer Mrs. Lancaster. Kevin carried her luggage and pushed her wheelchair toward the car heading for the airport. Ethan didn't say goodbye. He just followed them in his own car. He watched as Scarlett was wheeled into the airport terminal, through the waiting area, to the gate. Then the plane took off, a silver streak against the sky. He stood in the blazing sun, staring at the small black dot until tears, pricked by the harsh light, streamed down his face. But he refused to close his eyes. "Scarlett, I'm sorry. Scarlett, I love you so much. On the plane, Kevin looked at Scarlett's melancholic face and said, "Are you sure you want to give up? He seems very different now. Maybe you two could try again." Scarlett looked out the window. "The problem isn't with him, it's with me. I need to find my true, independent self, not the person who relied on her father, her husband, and her career for her sense of worth. I don't want to fall apart like that ever again." 3 months later, Walter King was arrested, and Arthur Gardner was exonerated. Ethan offered to take him to the capital city, hoping to see Scarlett. But Kevin told him that Scarlett's hand surgery had failed and she had gone abroad to study. No matter how Ethan threatened or bribed him, Kevin refused to reveal Scarlett's whereabouts. Ethan had no choice but to wait. Gardner Trading was returned to Arthur, bigger and stronger than before. Ethan had personally sorted out all the problematic projects and systems and gotten rid of all the dishonest employees. Arthur's business thrived. Ethan wasn't trying to curry favor with his former father-in-law. He just hadn't taken good care of Scarlett before. Now, he wanted to take care of her father and her family's business, so that when she returned, he might have some ground to stand on when he saw her again. But he never expected that he would have to wait for 3 years. During those 3 years, a new young artist burst onto the international scene. After an injury at the age of 25, she had forced herself to learn to paint with her left hand and had fought her way back to the top, earning widespread acclaim. Scarlett had finally entered the hallowed halls of the art world on her own terms, once again earning the title of a genius painter. At 28, she was invited back to her home country for an exhibition. Ethan and Arthur waited anxiously outside the airport. A woman in a trench coat and sunglasses walked out. Though her demeanor had changed drastically, Ethan recognized her at once. Scarlett was really back. It felt like a lifetime had passed. Arthur had already rushed forward, and father and daughter embraced emotionally. Ethan approached slowly, feeling a sense of trepidation. Suddenly, a glint of sunlight reflected off Scarlett's finger and into his eyes. Ethan blinked. When he opened his eyes again, he froze. Scarlett was standing in front of him, the scent of jasmine from her perfume wafting around him. She took off her sunglasses, her beautiful face just as he remembered. But now she no longer looked sad and withdrawn. She was bright and confident. Ethan's gaze fell on the ring on her ring finger, and his heart felt like a swing teetering on the edge of a cliff, surrounded by an abyss. He forced a smile. "You're married." Scarlett held up her hand, showing the ring, and nodded. "Yes, he's in Africa doing aid work. He's not back yet. You know him, it's Kevin Chambers." Ethan summoned every ounce of self-control he possessed to calmly drive them home. On the way back, his hands trembled on the steering wheel. He should have known, shouldn't he? From the day Scarlett left with Kevin, he knew this day would come. He had made a mistake and pushed her into someone else's arms. He had brought this on himself, but he couldn't accept it. They had loved each other. No matter what, he had to try for a happy ending. He pulled the car over, rolled down the window, and chain-smoked 2 cigarettes before finally making up his mind and calling Leo. "Look into the aid project that Chambers guy is on in Africa. The Lancaster Group is making an additional investment. Drag it out for a few years if you can. Don't let him come back so soon." He was a businessman. He knew how to scheme, how to be ruthless. "Scarlett, no matter what, let me try one more time." Back at home, Scarlett couldn't escape a gentle interrogation from her father. She had never told him the full story of what had happened over the years, and he was naturally worried. She managed to deflect his questions. Then Arthur brought up Ethan, subtly speaking in his favor and trying to gauge her feelings. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was back on business. Once it was done, she would be leaving again. She had no intention of developing any kind of serious relationship with anyone. Scarlett needed to stay in the country for 2 months and planned to rent a temporary studio. To her surprise, Ethan had bought her old studio. Not wanting to cause any more trouble, she accepted, but insisted on paying him rent. He didn't refuse. She had planned to go over early to redecorate, but when she arrived, she froze. Ethan had preserved the original layout, but had made some changes. Now everything was perfectly set up for her to paint with her left hand. She walked around, not changing a thing. "Are you satisfied?" Ethan walked in, holding a bouquet of hyacinths. Scarlett asked hesitantly, "Did you set this up?" Ethan hummed in affirmation. He didn't hand her the flowers but placed them in a vase himself. "I spent a week here, constantly adjusting things to get the best experience for left-handed painting. This is the final result. Scarlett, do you still like it? Ethan stood in the sunlight, wearing a white shirt. A gentle breeze rustled the hyacinths. For a moment, Scarlett was in a daze. It felt as if he was asking, "Scarlett, do you still like me?" "Scarlett?" She snapped back to reality, nodding awkwardly. "Yes, it's perfect." Ethan seemed to chuckle softly. Without another word, he rolled up his sleeves and started hanging the paintings she had brought. These were her left-handed works from the past few years, their style brighter and more expressive than before. When the walls were full, Ethan stood in the middle of the room, a light sheen of sweat on his brow, admiring the art. Scarlett pressed her lips together and handed him a bottle of water. "Thank you for your help," he said with a hint of nostalgia. "It's good to finally see your work again." "Scarlett, you're truly amazing. You pulled yourself out of the mud." Something stirred in Scarlett's heart. Over the years, she had heard the word amazing many times. It was always about her work. He was the first person to praise her for saving herself. He was different from 3 years ago. It seemed he finally understood her a little. And so, she said from the bottom of her heart, "Thank you." Ethan looked at her deeply, then turned his gaze to a painting of a starry sky on the wall. "The last time I saw you paint a starry sky was 5 years ago." Scarlett was surprised. "You remember?" Ethan smiled. "Of course. I happened to walk into a gallery, and that painting, Starry Sky, was hanging right in the center. It was the first time I had ever seen your art. The impact of that moment reminded me of the starry sky I saw when I hiked Mount Niubei at 19, so vast and boundless. After I went home, my mother went to your family to propose. We got engaged and married that year. Later, when you had your auction, I genuinely wanted to buy that painting to keep. Then I looked into your past works, and many of them moved me in different ways. Scarlett, although I did intend to promote you, it was your work that moved me first. I'm sorry for what happened before. I handled it badly and caused you to misunderstand." Scarlett was silent. He had said something similar 3 years ago. But back then, she had been in such a dark place that she thought he was just making excuses. It turned out he had been telling the truth. In her years abroad, she had often reflected on the past during sleepless nights. She realized that what had happened wasn't entirely Ethan's fault. He had been arrogant and proud, but she had failed to communicate, choosing instead to endure and retreat. At least when it came to buying her paintings, his intentions had been good. He was a wealthy man, but he had the right to support an artist he admired. It was she who had been too narrow-minded at the time, and so she shook her head gently. "It's all in the past." Ethan's features relaxed. He gently brushed a stray strand of hair, blown by the wind, from her face. "Yes, it's all in the past. We can start over." From her first day back, Ethan naturally integrated himself into Scarlett's life. Compared to 3 years ago, his sharp edges and arrogance had softened, and he seemed much more at peace. So at peace that Scarlett didn't know how to refuse him. He didn't give her flowers, but every place she went was filled with flowers he had arranged. He didn't ask her out to dinner. But every meal, home-cooked dishes were delivered to her studio, all the comfort foods she had missed while abroad. He didn't talk about their feelings, but he constantly reminisced about the past, subtly clearing up many misunderstandings. For example, he hadn't been unfaithful. All those romantic rumors had been spread by women he had rejected, trying to boost their own status. For example, Jasmine had never been the love of his life. Their families had considered an alliance, and he had been indifferent. As for that steamy phone call and the supposed night of passion in the master bedroom, it was all a one-woman show she had staged herself. And for example, he had never wasted her efforts. The hangover teas she had brewed to mend their relationship, the birthday cakes she had baked, the longevity noodles she had made, he had enjoyed them all, but had been too stubborn to admit it at the time. Like a gentle spring rain, he peeled back the layers of the past, revealing the truth to Scarlett. Though Scarlett was no longer trapped by her emotions, knowing that her past affections had not been one-sided, that her efforts had been received, brought her a sense of comfort. The last remnants of her old resentment quietly dissipated. On the opening day of her exhibition, the crowd was unprecedented. After all, Scarlett had once been a sensation in the country. Her dramatic retirement 3 years ago, coupled with her triumphant return as a left-handed painter, had created a huge amount of buzz. Coincidentally, the gallery was the same one from 3 years ago. As Scarlett stood on the stage, she felt a sense of destiny. Someone in the audience stood up to ask a question. Miss Gardner, did you work so hard to master painting with your left hand to wash away the shame of being slandered 3 years ago and prove with your own strength that you are a true genius painter? Scarlett looked at her and saw, in her place, the girl from 3 years ago, shouting, "Genius painter." More like a fraud back then, she had been panicked and helpless. Now, time had passed and she was calm and composed. Scarlett smiled. 3 years ago, I was not yet mature. I wasn't qualified to be called a painter. Back then, I painted desperately because it was my only talent. I had to be the best to go further. I believed that was my life's purpose. So when my right hand was injured and I could no longer paint, I felt I was finished. It was my friends who didn't give up on me, who dragged me back to life. I spent some time in a daze, and I had to find something to do to pass the time. But no matter what I thought of, the only thing in my mind was painting. It's the only thing I'm good at and the only thing I love. I couldn't let it go. Even though what I painted then couldn't bring me any benefit, I still wanted to continue. It was then that I realized the meaning of painting for me wasn't to achieve success, but to find inner peace. My worth shouldn't be judged by success or failure. My inner self is separate from the outside world, and even separate from painting. Even if I had never mastered left-handed painting, I would still have eyes that see beauty and a mind that feels the emotion to create it. That is my true worth. It is my inner strength, and no one can take it away. Her story of rebirth moved everyone. The audience erupted in thunderous applause. Scarlett sighed. Although what happened 3 years ago was a huge blow, it also spurred my growth. It's just a pity that in my despair, I destroyed my own creations. They were all my heart and soul. It pains me to think about it now. Murmurs of regret rippled through the crowd. Who said they were destroyed? A clear male voice cut through the noise. Scarlett froze and looked at Ethan as he walked gracefully onto the stage. Didn't he say he had a meeting and couldn't come today? With a faint smile, he clapped his hands, and a large, previously closed door opened. This is an exhibition of all the works of the artist Scarlett Gardner from the ages of 16 to 25. Please, feel free to take a look. The crowd gasped and rushed toward the newly opened section. The walls of the vast hall were covered with Scarlett's paintings. Mother from when she was 16, High Heels from 17, Sunset Glow from 18, all the way to Dream Wedding from 25. It was a complete collection of her works since her debut. Scarlett stood before Night Sky, the painting she had personally torn apart 3 years ago, and stared, feeling as if she were reuniting with a long-lost friend. Her eyes burned. It must have taken a lot of effort to restore them. There wasn't a single trace of damage. Ethan didn't answer. He just looked at her deeply and said in a low voice, "Scarlett, I cherish all of your hard work. Both your paintings and your feelings for me." The calm lake of Scarlett's heart rippled. "Thank you, Ethan." After the exhibition, public opinion of Scarlett completely turned around. Many of the netizens who had once participated in bullying her online sent her private messages of apology. But some die-hard haters continued to insult and threaten her, convinced that Scarlett was a fraud and that her redemption was all a manipulation by her sugar daddy. For years, there had been speculation online about this patron, with several wealthy men being named. Ethan was, of course, no exception. Some of Ethan's obsessive fans even came to insult Scarlett. "Home-wrecking scum, have you no shame? Ethan is mine, I'm going to kill you." Scarlett ignored them all. The recent revelations from Ethan had shaken her deeply. After much thought, she decided she needed to distance herself from him. Although she had made peace with the past, she had no intention of rekindling their romance. She still clearly remembered the past few years, trapped in a hopeless love, the despair and anguish of it all. The misunderstandings had been cleared up, but the hurt had been real. She was still wary, and she preferred to stay away. Besides, in a month, she would be leaving. After being turned away a few times, Ethan seemed to get the message and stopped coming around. But every day, a bouquet of flowers was left at her door. Scarlett wanted to throw them away, but the flowers were too beautiful, and she couldn't bring herself to do it. A week passed, and Scarlett gradually grew accustomed to being alone in her studio. One evening, it started to rain. Her night vision wasn't great, so she decided to wait it out. But the rain only grew heavier, with flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder. With a loud clap of thunder, the studio lights flickered twice and went out. Scarlett's heart jumped. She dropped her paintbrush and fumbled for her phone, but she couldn't find it. The darkness made her more and more anxious. A strange thought popped into her head. If Ethan were here, he would have found it in an instant. He was always so meticulous about organization. In a daze, she heard a knock on the door. She wanted to ask who it was, but the atmosphere was too eerie and she couldn't make a sound. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, and light streamed in from outside. Scarlett froze, her heart in her throat. "Scarlett?" Ethan walked in with a flashlight, its soft glow dispelling the darkness. Scarlett breathed a sigh of relief, the fear receding like the tide. She asked, "What are you doing here?" Ethan looked down at her. "Just passing by." In the middle of a thunderstorm, with a flashlight, just passing by. Since when had Mr. Lancaster become such a terrible liar? She didn't call him out on it. Ethan scanned the room and accurately located her phone under a box of paints. "Let's go. The rain won't stop anytime soon. I'll give you a ride." Scarlett felt a little awkward and pulled her sleeves down. "Okay, thank you." The car ride was silent. The heavy rain made driving difficult, and Ethan drove slowly. Since she couldn't escape now anyway, Scarlett decided to just feign sleep. But then Ethan suddenly spoke. "Where's your ring?" Scarlett was startled but kept her composure. "It's being cleaned." "Hasn't Kevin come back yet?" Scarlett sighed. "He just left 2 months ago. He was supposed to be back in another 4 months, but they got more funding, so he'll be there for at least another year." A glint appeared in Ethan's eyes. He continued, "Are you too often apart like this?" "It can't be helped, that's the nature of his work." The light turned red. Ethan tapped his finger on the steering wheel. "Do you need my help?" "Even though you're abroad, I can still pull some strings to arrange a job for him. Consider it my way of making up for driving him away." Scarlett quickly shook her head. "No, that's not necessary. He has his own plans." "Are you kidding? Kevin is married now. If I cause any trouble, his wife will kill me." The light turned green and Ethan pressed the accelerator. The rainy night was cool, but a thin layer of sweat had formed on his forehead and his face was a little pale. Worried that he might go ahead and do it anyway, Scarlett continued to explain. "He wants to push the aid project forward so he can train some successors to take over. That way, he can be back in the country for good when the baby is born." With a screech of tires, the car came to an abrupt halt. Scarlett was thrown forward, then yanked back by the seatbelt. She turned to see Ethan's eyes, red and blazing. "You're pregnant?" Scarlett froze. "Oh no. Kevin's wife is pregnant, and I just let it slip." Seeing Ethan's devastated expression, she swallowed hard. "Well, what's done is done. Might as well commit to it." "Yes, 3 months." Ethan stared at Scarlett, his world falling apart. She was pregnant. His former wife, the girl he loved most, was having another man's child. All of this should have been his. He remembered 6 years ago when they had just gotten married. Scarlett had wanted a child too. At family gatherings, the elders would always pressure them, and though Scarlett was embarrassed, she would blush and agree. It was he who had rejected the idea. He said he wasn't ready to settle down, that he didn't want kids. He told her she was still young and should focus on her career instead of being obsessed with a husband and children, which was boring. He had been flippant and had humiliated her in front of everyone. Her face had gone pale, but she hadn't said a word. After that, she started using contraception and never mentioned children again. He had been too young then, too proud, just trying to win an argument. He didn't realize that what he had gambled away was her love for him and their future together. His eyes red, he stared at her flat stomach. His voice was hoarse. "Scarlett, I'm sorry. For everything in the past, I'm so sorry." Scarlett remembered that time too and turned her head away, a wave of sadness washing over her. "It's okay. It's all in the past." Silence filled the car. After a long while, he said, "There's no chance for us anymore, is there?" Scarlett closed her eyes and said nothing. He laughed self-deprecatingly and started the car again. But with a muffled groan, the car moved only a few inches before stopping. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Only then did Scarlett notice he was covered in sweat, his face deathly pale, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. She panicked. "Are you not feeling well? What hurts?" Ethan rested his face on the steering wheel and gritted his teeth. "I'm fine. Just let me rest for a minute." "How can you be fine when you're in so much pain?" Scarlett anxiously held his arm, her other hand patting him down. "Where does it hurt?" When she touched his calf, he suddenly flinched. "Don't touch there," Scarlett paused, then carefully lifted his pant leg. On his calf was a scar. She recognized it. It was a surgical scar. She had one just like it on her own leg. "Ethan, what happened to your leg?" She reached out to touch it, but he grabbed her hand. "Scarlett, don't worry, it just hurts when it rains. It'll be better in a minute. Just stay with me." Scarlett was silent. Her hand rested in his, and she could feel him trembling in pain. She turned her face to look at the rain-streaked window. A single tear silently fell. Ethan's leg didn't get any better. In the end, it was Scarlett who drove him home. She hadn't been inside the villa in 3 years, but not much had changed. She helped Ethan to his room and, following his instructions, found his pain medication and gave him a hot towel to put on his leg. She glanced at the bottle. It was for rheumatism. Since when did Ethan have rheumatism? She bit her lip and looked at him. He had recovered a bit and was leaning against the headboard, watching her expression with a faint smile. "It's really nothing. Don't look so serious." "Then tell me, what happened?" Ethan lowered his head and sighed softly. "After you left, I was in a car accident. I broke my leg. I was too busy to let it heal properly, so now it hurts whenever it rains." "That's all?" Scarlett was stunned. "How did you get in a car accident?" The story was eerily familiar, just like what had happened to her 3 years ago. She had a feeling it wasn't a coincidence. Ethan closed his eyes and leaned back against the pillow. "Because I wanted to know how much pain you were in 3 years ago." Scarlett froze. "Scarlett, these 3 years without any news of you, I missed you so much. I thought that if I went through all the pain you suffered, maybe you would forgive me a little. At the very least, it would make me feel closer to you. I know it's absurd, but I had no other way. I didn't want us to become complete strangers." "So, you were in a car accident, and I got into one too. You were pushed down the stairs, so I threw myself down the stairs. You broke your leg, and I happened to break mine in the exact same place, with the exact same scar. Don't you think it's fate?" Scarlett bit her lip hard, unable to believe he would do something so crazy. "Ethan, are you insane? You could have died." He gave a bleak smile. "I know. Kevin told me you were very unhappy when you were with me, that you had depression. I looked it up. Depression can lead to suicidal thoughts. I've replayed the past countless times, trying to figure out how much I hurt you to make you lose the will to live." "Scarlett, what does it take to push someone to the point where they don't want to live anymore?" "I don't know. But you've tasted death, and I wanted to try it too. So I took up a lot of extreme sports. Bungee jumping, skydiving, rock climbing, paragliding, I've done them all. At first, I was sick all the time, but then I started to like the feeling of being on the brink of death. Every time I was on that line between life and death, I felt like I was so close to you." Tears streamed down Scarlett's face, a heavy weight pressing on her heart. She had always thought Ethan didn't love her, that his attempts to win her back were just out of unwillingness to let go. She never imagined that he had been hurting in this relationship too. Ethan wiped her tears with a tissue. "Don't cry, Scarlett, it's not good for the baby. It's all in the past, I'm fine now." Scarlett was sobbing. "Ethan, don't do this ever again," he said gently. "Okay, I won't. I'm slowly getting better." "But Scarlett, can you not push me away so quickly? I understand, you're someone else's wife now. I won't force you to do anything. I just need some time." Scarlett looked at him with teary eyes. "Okay, I promise. We can still be friends." She covered his injured leg with the blanket. His gaze on her was dark and intense. Late that night, Scarlett was asleep in the guest room. Ethan answered a call from Leo. "Mr. Lancaster, we've investigated the online haters targeting Miss Gardner. It is an organized effort, and it's an old acquaintance." Ethan looked at the file that was sent over and said flatly, "Since it's an acquaintance, let's provoke her into showing herself. Hiding behind a keyboard won't get her anywhere." Ethan started visiting Scarlett daily again, sitting with her while she painted. Sometimes he would even offer his own ideas, and it was clear he had studied oil painting over the past few years. Before long, he had worked his way into Arthur Gardner's home as well. When Scarlett was away, he rarely visited, always meeting Arthur at the office. But the moment Scarlett returned, he was at the door, eagerly staying for dinner and bringing gifts of prenatal supplements and baby supplies, which completely baffled the unsuspecting Arthur. Fortunately, Scarlett was able to smooth things over. With Kevin away, Ethan had unofficially appointed himself the baby's father, even offering to accompany Scarlett to her prenatal checkups. Scarlett didn't dare agree and managed to put him off with her father's help. Thankfully, she only had less than a month of work left before she would be leaving. Any longer, and she'd have to come up with an excuse for a miscarriage when her belly didn't grow. Just as everything seemed to be going smoothly, Arthur suddenly fell ill. It wasn't until Scarlett rushed her father to the hospital that she learned he had severe liver cirrhosis from years of business-related drinking. He had undergone a liver transplant a while ago and was still in recovery. But recently, with his busy schedule, he had slipped back into his old habits of smoking and drinking, and his liver was failing again. Scarlett was furious, scolding her father for keeping something so serious from her. But her heart ached to see him suffer, and tears streamed down her face. Ethan arrived, looking weary from travel. He told Scarlett to go rest and took over caring for Arthur. Watching how capably he handled everything, Scarlett knew that in the 3 years she had been gone, he had been the one looking after her father. The fact that her father had gotten a transplant so quickly must have been thanks to Ethan. Her heart softened completely. She turned her head away, not daring to look at him anymore. She was afraid that if she did, her resolve would crumble again. Ethan probably feels so guilty about what happened that he's mistaken it for love. That's why he's so persistent. When he comes to his senses, he'll realize it's not love, just a desire to make amends. At noon, Scarlett was sent out to buy lunch. Halfway there, she realized she had forgotten her phone and turned back. As she approached the room, she overheard Arthur and Ethan talking. "Arthur, you absolutely cannot touch alcohol again. Gardner Trading is stable now. There's no need to rush expansion." "I know, I was careless this time. This liver came from you. I'll take good care of it. I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. It's not about me. It's Scarlett. I don't want to see her so worried." Scarlett froze on the spot. Her father's liver was from Ethan. He had saved her father and never said a word to her. In just 3 years, he had been in a car accident, broken bones, engaged in extreme sports, and now donated part of his liver. Did he really have a death wish, to torture himself like this? Scarlett was furious, wanting to storm in and knock some sense into him. But it was clear that neither of them wanted her to know. She took a deep breath, pretended she hadn't heard anything, went in, grabbed her phone, and left. Each step was filled with anger. Those two had better not be hiding anything else from her. Otherwise, Scarlett Gardner, someone suddenly jumped in front of Scarlett, startling her. The woman had bulging eyes and high cheekbones. She looked unhinged, but her face was vaguely familiar. Scarlett racked her brain. "You're Jasmine Rivers." Her eyes widened. It was indeed Jasmine, but how had she ended up like this? Jasmine let out a cackling laugh. "I'm surprised you can still recognize me, Miss Famous Painter. You must be so proud of yourself, right? For you, Ethan bankrupted my family, sent my parents to prison, and had me locked up in a mental hospital. I was tortured for 2 years before I managed to escape. And you're even more glorious than before. Why did I have to lose everything? While you have it all." Seeing her crazed state, Scarlett took a nervous step back. "What happened to you has nothing to do with me. If you have a problem, take it up with Ethan." Jasmine let out a sharp laugh. "Of course it has to do with you. As long as you're dead, Ethan will be mine again. He'll want me again. Give Ethan back to me." Jasmine suddenly went berserk, pulling out a knife and lunging at Scarlett, her vicious expression making it clear she intended to kill her. Scarlett froze in terror and squeezed her eyes shut. "Scarlett!" She heard a shout, the sound of a blade sinking into flesh, but felt no pain. She opened her eyes to see Ethan standing in front of her. The knife was buried in his abdomen and blood was pouring out. His face was pale. He slowly raised a hand to touch her face and whispered, "It's okay, Scarlett. I won't let anything happen to you or the baby." Scarlett's mind went blank. She reached out to hold him, but his eyes closed and he collapsed to the ground. Ethan was lifted onto a stretcher and rushed to the operating room. Scarlett held his hand the entire way, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, don't fall asleep. Talk to me. Just hold on a little longer. We're almost at the operating room." He weakly opened his eyes and gently wiped away her tears. "Don't cry, the baby will be upset. Scarlett, I'm sorry, it was Ken who forgot you. If I don't wake up this time, all my shares will be transferred to you. Our Scarlett and the baby will never be bullied again." Scarlett shook her head frantically, crying too hard to speak. Her self-control completely shattered, and the emotions she had desperately suppressed came rushing back. She had never forgotten him. She had never stopped loving him. She had just wanted to protect herself, so she hadn't dared to love again. But he had risked his life for her multiple times. Now she had watched him fall, protecting her and a non-existent child. She couldn't let him go. She could accept being apart from him, never seeing him again for the rest of her life. But nothing could happen to him. Absolutely not. The light outside the operating room stayed on for over 10 hours. Scarlett sat right there for all those hours, refusing to eat or drink, deaf to anyone who tried to persuade her to rest. When Ethan was finally wheeled out, she tried to rush to him but was too weak to even stand. The doctor said he was not out of danger yet and needed to be monitored. Scarlett moved into his hospital room, staying by his side around the clock. "Ethan, how long are you going to sleep? Aren't you afraid I'll run off with your shares?" "Shares of the Lancaster Group? I could probably top the Forbes list, right? Then I could use your money to support a few boy toys. What a happy life that would be. You're already 30 this year. You probably can't keep up with the younger guys. I don't want to settle. Don't believe me? I could call in a few male models and we could compare. Never mind that you're lying here now. Even in your prime, you probably couldn't compete with the professionals." Still no reaction from Ethan. Scarlett sighed. "Looks like you're admitting defeat. Well, fine. If you're not going to fight for it, I don't want to waste my time either. Ken said he has a junior colleague who's been interested in me. 6'1", six-pack abs, born after 2000, and has 2 dimples when he smiles, just my type. If you don't have any objections, I'm going to go meet him." As she spoke, Scarlett actually started packing a bag, muttering about how boring this was. Suddenly, Ethan's finger twitched. Scarlett froze, her eyes glued to his hand, but there was no further movement. She sighed in disappointment and slung the bag over her shoulder. "Ethan, you really approve of me going to meet a boy toy? I'm telling you, I'm very fickle." Before she could finish, Ethan's hand twitched again, then slowly began to unclench. Scarlett's face lit up, and she rushed to get the doctor. After an examination, the doctor said his vitals were recovering well and he might wake up soon. Scarlett was overjoyed. That night, she slept by Ethan's side as usual. Suddenly, she felt someone wrap their arms around her. She slowly opened her eyes to see Ethan's clear gaze fixed on her. Before she could react and call for a doctor, he said in a hoarse voice, "Scarlett, thinking about male models while you're pregnant. You've really got some nerve." She laughed. "Ethan, if you're afraid of losing, just say so. It's no shame to lose to the younger generation." Under Scarlett's care, Ethan recovered quickly. By the time he was discharged, he was openly holding her hand. They hadn't talked about the future yet, but Scarlett felt a sense of peace. Though a part of her was still anxious, she was no longer the young woman from 3 years ago who needed external validation. She knew she would stumble again in life, but now she knew how to get back up, dust herself off, and keep going. A week later, Ethan and Scarlett attended their university's anniversary celebration. As a distinguished alumnus who had donated buildings and funds, Ethan was in the spotlight. But he quietly avoided the crowds and led Scarlett by the hand to a banyan tree in a small grove. Seeing the tree, Scarlett froze. "Why did you bring me here? To dig for treasure." Ethan produced a small shovel from somewhere and started digging at the base of the tree. Soon, he unearthed a glass jar filled with paper stars. Scarlett blushed. "How did you know?" Those were the 1,000 paper stars she had folded for Ethan during her college years when she had a secret crush on him. She had buried them under the tree before graduation. She thought that secret love was buried forever, never expecting it to be unearthed years later. Ethan didn't speak. He opened the jar, took out a star, and handed it to Scarlett to unfold. As she carefully opened the paper, 4 faded words appeared: "Ken, my dear brother." She continued to unfold it, and her eyes widened. Someone had added a few more words, and Scarlett together forever. Ken, my dear brother, and Scarlett together forever. Every single star was the same. Scarlett's vision blurred. Ethan pulled her into his arms, his deep voice resonating from above her. "Scarlett, don't be anxious. My feelings for you aren't guilt or a desire to make amends. I like you, I always have. I lied last time. When I was 25, the first time I saw your painting and was so struck by it, it wasn't just the painting. It was you. You were standing there under that vast, boundless galaxy, and my heart became that starry sky. The world went silent, and only you existed. Scarlet, I've liked you for many, many years. Scarlet covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face, dripping into the jar of paper stars, making them glitter like real starlight. The deep love of an 18-year-old girl had finally received its answer, 10 years later. Ethan took out the pink heart ring that Scarlet had left behind 3 years ago. He gently pressed a small clasp, and the pink diamond detached from the band. He held the diamond up to the light, and as the light passed through its facets, a clear inscription was visible at its base. "SG, my love." He cupped Scarlet's face, his eyes swirling with emotion. Scarlet, the pink heart had nothing to do with anyone else. From the very beginning, it was made for you. And so was I. Scarlet looked at him, a galaxy of stars in her eyes. Ethan reassembled the ring, got down on one knee, and looked up at the girl he loved. "Miss Scarlet Gardner, will you give me another chance?" Scarlet slowly slid her finger into the ring. "Ethan Lancaster, let's try again." Under the banyan tree, they held each other tightly. Not far away, Leo couldn't help but shed a few tears. A broken mirror mended. It hadn't been easy. Mrs. Lancaster is still too naive. A master strategist like the boss, always in control, how could he not have known that she and Kevin weren't married, that she wasn't pregnant? He was just playing along. The exiled Kevin, the provoked and used Jasmine, and even the boss himself, who had risked his life with his schemes, they were all just pawns in his game. And after moving all those pieces, he had finally won the game and won back his wife. He stretched and decided to head back. Now that the boss had his happy ending, his assistant had a lot more work to do. The wedding, the honeymoon, the baby shower, he strolled away slowly, leaving the lovers under the moon, embracing in the evening breeze.